Okay, and I know Johanna said live manager was going as well. So let's go ahead and get started. It's 9:01 a.m. Today is March 16th, 2021, and this is our regular meeting for the Lake County Board of Supervisors. First, we will start with a moment of silence. There was an unfortunate, horrific accident over in the Lower Lake Middletown area between Saturday and Sunday, and I'd like to hold our thoughts and our prayers for Miguel Maciel Dominguez and Cassandra Elaine Rolacek, who unfortunately lost their lives in that accident, and it's suspected that it's due to a drunk driving incident. So our thoughts and prayers to the family and friends that are dealing with that loss. It's an unfortunate incident in our community. Thank you. Supervisor Pyska, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Supervisor. We're going to go ahead and move on to item number 4. Our extra items, and it looks like we have 2 extra items that have been offered. Is there any more that has come since last evening? Looking at our board and our CAO. Okay, nothing more. So let's go just to go see if we're going to be discussing these items. 4.1, this was brought to us by Administrative Office. CAO Hutchinson.
Yes, Mr. Chair, my request is that we, that your board take up discussion of this item after the COVID update. But if you'd like now, I could give you the justification, or it can all wait.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do the justification, and then we'll place it in its right position on our agenda.
Okay, so what 4.1 is 2-part. A is consideration of an extra agenda item, and B, consideration of a memorandum of understanding between the California Government Operations Center and the County of Lake. And the justification for this is that this item came to my attention after the posting of the agenda. I received it Friday evening, and there is need to take action before your next available agenda.
And I believe every county got it on Friday, not just us as well. Any comments or questions from the board for this item? Again, just reviewing the reason for picking up the discussion. Seeing none, let's go ahead and open it up to the public real quick for discussion on this. Not sure if we do a public discussion on talking about the item, but Jake, let's go ahead and open up the public.
All right, I've sent an unmute request out to the Zoom room floor. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name. Individuals who have joined us via phone, please know that you could raise your hands by dialing *9 on your dial pad.
Okay, and hearing none, let's go ahead and bring it back to the board for action. And this is to approve taking up this item.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to take up the extra item, consideration of extra agenda item, a consideration memorandum of understanding between California Government Operations Agency and the County of Lake.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Johanna, roll call, please.
Okay, Supervisor Simon.
Aye.
Supervisor Crandall.
Yes.
Supervisor Scott.
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska.
Yes.
And Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, and the next extra item, 4.2, is a consideration of an extra agenda item. Consideration of the letter to the Board of Forestry authorizing the chair to sign, voicing our position to propose revisions to the state minimum fire safe regulations. Again, this is only to discuss why this is an extra item and whether to approve discussing it. And Supervisor Crandall.
Yes, so the Board of Forestry has scheduled a special meeting next Monday on the 22nd, and is there to discuss possibly approving the fire safe regulation proposal. So it is expected that a new draft for the proposal will be released early next week. Although it is unclear what changes will be made to the prior draft, all indications are provisions creating no build areas in the state and local responsibility lands. And so I wanted to get along with.
And for this item, we're just discussing the reasons why it would be an extra item and if approved as an extra item.
Right. And so if we try to push it till next week, it'd be too late.
And this came up after the posting of the agenda?
Yes. I received it in the RCRC meeting Wednesday.
Okay. And do we have any comments or questions from the board?
No.
Any comments or questions from the public?
I have sent an unmute request out to the Zoom room floor. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name. Again, individuals who are joining us via phone, you could dial *9 to raise your hand.
Thank you, Jake. Okay, let's go ahead and bring it back to the board for action again to take this up as a discussion.
Mr. Chair, I move to take item 4.2 up on the agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Johanna, roll call, please.
Supervisor Simon,
Yes.
Supervisor Crandall,
Yes.
Supervisor Scott.
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
And so 4.1 will come after our COVID-19 updates, if that's okay with everyone. And then 4.2, if Supervisor Crandall doesn't mind, we'll just try and fit it in where it doesn't put our timed items too far behind.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and move on to item number 5, approval of the consent agenda. Is there any item from the consent agenda that the board wishes to pull? Okay, seeing none. Jake, let's go ahead and open up the Zoom room again and ask if anybody wishes to pull an item for further discussion.
All right, I've sent an unmute request out to the Zoom room floor. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name. Again, individuals who are joining us over phone, you could dial *9 to raise your hand.
Okay, and hearing none, let's go ahead and bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda 5.1 through 5.8.
Second.
Motion and a second. Johanna, roll call, please.
Supervisor Simon,
Yes.
Supervisor Crandall,
Yes.
Supervisor Scott,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Let's go to 6.1 or 9:05 a.m. item, public input. This is for the public to express themselves on any item that is not on our agenda. And Jake, let's go ahead and open up the Zoom room.
All right, I've sent an unmute request out to the Zoom room floor. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name. Again, individuals who have joined us over phone, you can use or dial *9 to raise your hand.
Okay, hearing none. Just checking in with CAO Hutchinson. Do we have any public comment coming through e-comment or email? Other than for
Yes, but
specific
only the
items?
ones that are attached to specific agenda items, not any generic comments.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So we will move on to item 6.2 or 9:06 a.m. item, consideration of update on COVID-19. Dr. Pace, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and good morning, supervisors. Good morning, the public. Today we're going to give the COVID response update for Lake County and try to keep it brief today, but any questions or topics you want to go in deeper, that's great. And so overall, the cases are continuing to improve. We're starting to see real good numbers now, and Sarah will go into that in just a minute. But we're also having the vaccine continues to roll out in a good way, and we're getting all the vaccine out that we get into the county, continuing to do that. And we are seeing some potential to move into the red tier. We're hoping under the current data that we'll be able to move into that tomorrow. The state's going to make their final decision and we'll announce it at noon today, but it's all signs are favorable at this point. So maybe Sarah can go into the data and then I'll talk a little bit about each of these and then we can take questions. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good morning. Like Dr. Pace said, things continue to improve in Lake County and statewide. On the left, we're looking at the number of tests conducted and reported yesterday in the state of California. The gray line is the 7-day average. The state has changed how it's reporting some of these statewide data. I actually think it's an improvement. They're now in most cases reporting the 7-day average. Previously, they've been reporting the 14-day average. And so these are more timely data and I think more useful. And I'd encourage people who are interested to go to covid19.ca.gov to see some of the improved functionality on the site for data at both the state and Lake County level. So here we see that testing continues to decline statewide, as does test positivity. So the 7-day testing positivity is down to 1.9%, the lowest we've had since the beginning of the pandemic. Over 3.5 million cases have been identified in California. Yesterday, about 2,500 new cases were reported. Another thing that I'll note, change in how the state is reporting it, or a couple ways you can look at it, is actually by episode date. So when the first known infection was. So again, I think this is an improvement over just report date, so we can better understand when people are getting infected. And these data were looked at this previously, but not available this way on the public dashboard. Similar change in how the state's reporting deaths. So they're reporting it by date of death, not the date deaths were reported. So again, can better understand trends. And you can see here on the right that over 55,000 people in the state of California have died from COVID. The 7-day average continues to decline. Positive indicators in our healthcare system. Continue to declining numbers of COVID positive people who are hospitalized, about 3,800 yesterday, and about 1,000 of those people were in the ICU. In the last 7 days, we've identified about 40 new cases and for over 3,200 total cases in Lake County. We've identified one more death, bringing the totals of 43 deaths among Lake County residents. The week I have here in red on the epi curve, this is looking at the number of cases identified by week, episode week here. And for the week of February 28th to March 6th, which is the week in question that will make up our tier assignment, that Dr. Pace mentioned will be announced by the state later today, we believe will move us into the red tier. And I'm going to go into briefly the changes regarding the daily case rate at the state level. So as of yesterday, 19% of doses administered in the state of California have gone to communities in what the state calls the Healthy Places Index HPI Quartile 1. So these are communities with some of the least healthy community conditions. And the state had said that when we administer over 2 million doses in this quartile, they were going to relax some of the thresholds for the daily case rate to support communities reopening and lessen restrictions. So we surpassed the 2 million doses, I believe it was on Friday. And so some counties, moved from the purple tier into the red tier over the weekend. And so here's the new thresholds. So because we have 2 million people vaccinated in this HPI quartile 1, the red tier is the daily case rate is now 4 to 10 per 100,000 cases. So in Lake County, if we have under 45 cases in a week, we will be in the red tier. To be in the orange tier, indicating moderate transmission, is 1 to 3.9 daily case rate. For Lake County, that's no more than 18 cases in a week. And the state has set another goal that when we reach 4 million people vaccinated in the lowest HPI quartile, they'll further relax some of these thresholds to make it to allow counties to lessen restrictions. So this map that I'm showing you on the right was announced. These are the tier assignments as of March 12th, using these new thresholds when we cross that 2 million threshold. And you can see that the state is turning more red, meaning last week when we presented, about 80% of the state's population was living in a purple tier, indicating widespread transmission. And now, as of Sunday, about 65% of the state's population are living in a red tier. And Lake County's metrics for this period are 5 per 100,000 for the daily case rate with a 3% testing positivity. So that's why we believe the state will announce at noon today, moving into the red tier tomorrow for Lake County. And just a quick update on the vaccine progress locally, about 5,700, and I'm changing how I'm reporting this, so you may note that to follow how the state is reporting. About 5,700 people 16 years of age or older are partially vaccinated, meaning 1 dose. This is about 11% of the population. About 5,900 people 16 years of age plus are fully vaccinated, have received both doses in Lake County, and this is about 11% of the population. So 22% of your population has received at least 1 dose, and this is as of 9 p.m. last night. And then just my last slide, tracking by age. 55% of people over the age of 75 have now had at least 1 dose, and almost 50% of people 65 to 74 have had their first dose. I'm validating the race ethnicity data to ensure it aligns with the state reporting. And then also, we'll be reporting that next week, and then also working on tracking these data by the Healthy Places Index in Lake County. And that's all I have for this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. So I just want to point out that she reported the total percent of people vaccinated a little differently than we had reported it before. So really, total number of people that have been at least partially vaccinated is over 20% now of the adult population, right? And so just to go over the vaccine situation, that's the biggest news that we have right now. The inventory is about the same for the next couple of weeks. We're getting a couple thousand doses per week. Supposedly in April sometime, that number will increase dramatically. So this will, at least double, maybe even triple. So we're going to probably get a whole lot more vaccine in the near future. There was a shift this week that started yesterday to include people with medical conditions age 16 to 64. And this is new. There's certain medical conditions. They have a list. The state has a specific list. These are the conditions that are thought to be more likely to lead to death if people get a COVID infection. So, and initially we were talking about getting notes from your medical provider, but the state changed that now on Friday afternoon. And they said that basically we just need to have people self-declare that they meet the qualifications. So it's kind of on each individual to look at the list and decide that they do qualify, and then they sign a piece of paper and come on in. We're not challenging that or looking at that. There's issues around confidentiality and things that the state felt that it was just not a good idea to do it that way. So we are now, at this point, we are not asking for notes from the provider. If people have that, we're happy to see that and deal with that. But the criteria really for the medical conditions is that people just sign themselves in. There was questions last week about people from out of county coming in and getting the vaccine. Sarah and the team looked at that and found that there was actually very low number of people that was happening. Our staff goes through the people that have appointments the night before to make sure that they are in county, and if they're not, they contact them and let them and cancel their appointments. And also we have people at the front gate checking IDs and making sure people have local addresses. And I think that's really paid off, because really more people in Lake County are getting vaccine out of county than there are people out of county coming to Lake County to get it. So that seems to be not a particular issue right now, I think partly because of all the work that's being done on the backside. So we're going to be shifting the sites starting next week. So this week, we're going to be Monday and Tuesday at Lakeport, Thursday and Friday in Clear Lake, as we've been previously. Starting next week, we're going to go to just one day in Lakeport because we're not filling up all the appointments there. And we're going to go to 3 days in Clear Lake. So starting Monday, we will be one day, Monday in Lakeport at the drive-in, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at Redbud Park in Clear Lake. No appointments on Fridays or Saturdays or Sundays. We are also going to be, so just in terms of staffing, we are needing 25 to 30 staff per day, just to sort of emphasize how many people are really stepping up to help us here. There's we're using temp agency, we're using folks from other departments in the county. There's volunteers. A lot of the clinical people are volunteers. It's definitely a lot of people every day helping to make this thing flow, because we've got between 500 and now 1,000 people a day coming through each site. The appointments are going to be switching. So this is the state mandate to go to this. It's called My Turn. It's a new scheduling platform, a new data platform. The first day is going to be Friday. We're still having a lot of kind of problems getting it going, but we need to go that way. And so we're going to go ahead and start it. So I think it's going to be a different scheduling process. So if you are getting an appointment today or Thursday, that's going to be the old way we've been doing it, where you go on our website, find the link, and get scheduled. Starting Friday and moving forward, you go to myturn.ca.gov and work through that process to get an appointment. If you don't have online access, there's a phone number there that you can call, and you're going to have to call and do it. We don't have that appointment open yet because we've just been having to do some of the technical things, but it should be open later today for Friday and moving forward. I think there will probably be some bumps with this, so I encourage people to be patient and just, recognize that this is just part of the new process, but it will help. Once we get to where we're getting 2 to 3 times as much vaccine in, this setup will be better, I think. I've also heard that in other counties that started a little earlier than us, that the phone contact isn't nearly as good as what we've been trying to provide in Lake County up to now. But if you speak Spanish, they have a Spanish language person, but you have to kind of work your way through a whole menu of options to get to where you can get some help, and it can be a little bit frustrating. If people are having a hard time with that, what we'll probably do is get some phone banks to help people make the appointments. The state is putting this third-party administrator agreement, and I think that's what we're going to be talking about in a little bit, so I won't go into that anymore, but it's a big deal from the state point of view. They're basically taking over more and more control of this and the inventory and the distribution of the vaccine, and that's what this is, the MOU to do that. The ethics committee met again last week, and this was their recommendations. I'll just read the specific recommendations that they gave, mainly so people can continue to, if they have specific questions, they can go ahead and submit them, and we will give it to the committee, and they'll take it under consideration. So the public defenders last week asked that the committee review the ability of public defenders to get vaccinated because of court appearances. The committee reviewed the response of the Lake County Superior Court, where in-person hearings for criminal matters are ongoing and jury trials will be resumed shortly. Based on this information, the committee recommends public defenders and district attorney staff who are scheduled to appear in person for criminal matters should now be considered eligible for vaccine. This recommendation does not extend to office workers and support staff who are not required to appear in court. The committee also recommends that the court, in its outreach for jurors, should encourage fully vaccinated citizens to step up and serve in order to best protect the jury pool. And then there was another, this is in other business. The committee also considered whether starting 3/15/21, persons aged 18 to 64 with medical conditions should be required to provide verification of eligibility. In the interest of preserving limited doses to those that are deemed eligible per state guidelines, the committee recommends that persons in this group provide a simple statement from their physician indicating that they are eligible for vaccine when they check in on the site. With respect to all its recommendations, the committee continues to acknowledge that the situation is very fluid and anticipates that its recommendations will change with each passing week. So that one changed. This was on Tuesday that the committee met, and on Friday the state came out with their new guidelines about that. So that has been usurped now by the state. We are in the process. I think Supervisor Sabatier asked us to post these on our website. The person who does most of the website manipulation has been out for a couple of days. It's either up today or it will be up later today or tomorrow. And yeah, so I think that's it. But if people have specific concerns that they want addressed by the committee, they can just go ahead and send it into the Mohawk email site. So the tier system, like we mentioned a couple times, we think we are moving forward to the red tier starting tomorrow. The state will make a final decision and make the announcement at noon today, but it looks like the way we're interpreting our data, we should do that. It mainly depends on when they start the clock for the 2 weeks, and I think we should be fine. So what this means is starting tomorrow, it won't start today. They'll make the announcement today. It'll start tomorrow. The restaurants can open for 25% capacity for indoor dining. Gyms, yoga, and dance classes can open for 10% indoor capacity. And the middle schools and high schools will be able to open for on-site learning. My understanding is the vast majority of them in the county will probably start doing a hybrid learning process by next Monday, which means a certain number kids won't be there in school 5 days a week on site, but to keep the classrooms decompressed a little bit, some kids will be a couple days a week, and then home distance learning a couple days a week. Other kids will be there other couple days, so it sort of keeps the numbers down in the schools. We will be, we have to be in the tier for a couple weeks. I think it's 2 weeks before we can consider going to the orange tier. The numbers that we're getting now are good. If they keep going down this way, we'll probably be in the orange tier within, maybe 3 to 4 weeks. It also, as Sarah was pointing out, once the state gets to 4 million doses of vaccine in the lowest quartile, that will be expanded and we'll probably move in quicker then. So it's very possible within the next month, if things keep going the way we are, that we'll be in the orange tier, which we have not been in since the beginning of the whole tier system. So that'll be a welcome relief. So just in conclusion then, things are improving. We're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. We're moving forward. The cases are down. Unfortunately, we still had another person pass away this week that was COVID related. And I think we will continue to have cases and infection and, unfortunate outcomes, but it's much, much better than it was a couple months ago. The vaccines are continuing to roll out. We're getting them out as fast as we can. We think they're going to be increasing quantities here in the very near future. Vaccine hesitancy is a real thing, and I want to really encourage people to think twice. If you get an opportunity to get vaccinated, I would strongly encourage people to move forward. The more people we get vaccinated, the quicker we're going to get back to normal. That's just a straight up equation, and we're seeing that all around, even with the variants. So like the variant in London, which is the B117, is moving around this country some, but very clearly people that are vaccinated are much more protected than the people that are not vaccinated. So I think all in all, the more people we get vaccinated, the sooner we're going to be getting back to normal and having a more normal life. And yeah, things are loosening up in society now. We're probably going to be in the red tier by tomorrow. And we're even starting to talk about the orange tier, which is something, you probably have not heard me. I don't know that I've even talked about that in the whole time. So things are really looking up, and it's going to be a better summer, I think. So thank you
very much for your report, Dr. Pace and Sarah. Any questions or comments from board members? Supervisor Scott.
Good morning, Dr. Pace. Thank you for your report today. The only question I have is about vaccine numbers. I know the state had said at one time that eventually we'll know 3 weeks in advance how many doses we will have, so people will be able to make appointments earlier. Do we see that coming anytime soon, that people can make appointments a couple weeks in advance? Or
I don't know. There are so many moving parts right now between the TPA, the My Turn, and the inventory. I look forward to that day. Our life is going to be so much easier if we can just say we're going to have this much each week and open up the appointments. I can't wait for that, and I know our staff can't either. But yeah, I know it's very frustrating to people because we only open up a couple days at a time. But it's I just don't see a different way to do it. And now, especially turning over to this new platform, once we get on that, I think probably by next week or the week after, we'll be able to start doing a couple weeks at a time.
wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any other, Supervisor Pyska?
Well, I'm happy to hear this good news. And my question is about when we switch to My Turn, and I don't know if this is a better discussion for the next item, but is there still going to be the ability to check IDs and appointments the night before through the application or not?
The way they've, it sounds like we are going to be able to continue doing that through the end of the month. Then starting April, we will not. What their focus is removing obstacles. So anything that's considered an obstacle for people getting vaccine is what they want removed. So that's the current, there's a lot of negotiations going on. This was negotiated in a week or so ago, and it sounds like we're going to be able to continue doing that for the rest of the month. And then starting April 1st, we're not. And they're framing it that's when we're going to have a lot more vaccine anyhow. So it's not going to matter as much, but we'll see. Yeah, I'm not sure how that's going to play out.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any other questions or comments? Supervisor Simon?
Yes. Dr. Pace, once again, want to thank you and all your staff and all the volunteers for another week of great work. The question I had is just, I didn't see an update. I know last week we had our first week of Johnson & Johnson vaccine that it came out. And I would just, if you could just report on how that went and how that was accepted as the new vaccine. If you could just give a little report on that.
Sure. We got 600 doses last week. We used 500 at the site, and they all got taken. We're saving 100 for specific circumstances, like, if there's a migrant group that needs it and we know we won't be able to get them for a week or in a month, or, next time we need to do people in the jail or the homeless folks, anything like that. People that are specifically in a mobile situation, we were going to save a little bit. It looks like because of the way the manufacturing went, the state's not going to get any for a couple more weeks. Once we start getting more, we'll just, we want to just keep putting it out as fast as we can. People seem to do pretty well with it. The thinking is the experience so far has been there's less reactivity to it than other folks were getting. We definitely feel like it's as good as the other vaccines in terms of protection at this point. As far as we know, that's the case. There's a little bit different numbers in terms of some of the research protocols, but the researchers don't really feel like those are comparable or significant, that basically the Johnson & Johnson is as good as the other ones. And it's a lot easier to use because there's only one dose. So we look forward to getting more of it. The more we get, the more people we're going to be able to get vaccinated quicker.
Excellent. Thank you for that update.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yes, Dr. Pace. Thank you for your report, and just wanted to kind of give an update that I shared some of the discussion that we had for the past couple of weeks with working with our tribal health, and a lot of other counties that are rural like ours are having the same issue, and so working on trying to get them linked up to figure out that solution as well. So thank you for doing that work, and Mo, thank you again too for putting in the effort for that as well. So just wanted to note that.
Thank you. Thank you very much for both of your reports, from you, Dr. Pace, and Sarah as well. I know that I'm looking forward to us hitting the 4 million mark, because then it looks like our numbers would be very close to already allowing us to be in orange if that was the case. So if we keep going and getting our numbers to look better, then I think that should be an easy step for us to take in the very near future. I agree with you. Every single one of my questions that I had, you answered. Thank you for talking about updating the website. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Thank you for continuing to work on that. And also for the providing us some idea of how we're being impacted by those coming from out of county as well. And I appreciate the process is already in place to make sure that that's minimal. So thank you for doing all that. The rest, I think, is the conversation that's going to happen with the MOU, where there's definitely a lot to discuss as far as I'm concerned. But everything's looking good, and I know many of our schools are very excited to get back to it. And so getting to the red is going to be really important, and I sure hope that everything we've been waiting for, telling us that we should be there, will come to reality with what's going to be talked about today at noon from the governor's office. So thank you very much. If there's nothing left for the Board of Supervisors, then Jake, let's go ahead and open up the Zoom room. And Jake has been really nice about offering advice for those on the phone to hit *9 to raise your hand. But similarly, if you're on Zoom, if you click on participants, you have the ability to also raise your hand. It makes it easier to know who might or who might not have a comment. But Jake, let's go ahead and open up the Zoom room.
All right, so I've sent an unmute request out to the Zoom room floor. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name.
Okay, sounds like we have no public comment on this agenda item. Anything further from the board before we move on? Perfect. So let's go ahead and close up this item 6.2, and let's go on to our extra item 4.1. And CAO Hutchinson, would you like to start us off on this one?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate you taking this up while Dr. Pace is still with us. I should be able to respond to any administrative type of questions you might have about this MOU, but he's certainly your best source of information for anything related to the vaccines themselves. So as you're likely aware, originally counties were being tasked with the need to enter into contracts with Blue Shield, which is the state's selected third-party administrator for the statewide vaccine provider network. And this seemed unusual since counties were already operating vaccination sites quite capably in many areas, including here. And so in response to the concerns of counties and the preference that we enter into agreements with the state as opposed to the third-party administrator, county and state staff got together and drafted this MOU, which is intended to be used in all the counties. Approval of this MOU is required for our county to continue to administer COVID vaccinations, and it ensures that the state will make reasonable efforts to allocate a supply of sufficient doses to us so that we can administer it. It requires each provider, which would include us and any other in the county that opts to sign up. We're all required to use the MyTurn system, which Dr. Pace has talked a lot about in his reports. It's myturn.ca.gov. This system is necessary to submit all the required data reasonably as needed to manage the statewide vaccine network. This stems from the fact that it was reported to us, at least early on, a month or so ago, that something like 9 million doses had been shipped to California, but at that time, only 7 million could be accounted for as actually having been administered. And so the state really wants to focus on making sure all those doses get used. Hence the third-party administrator focus on making that happen. This MOU requires that the county follow the state's criteria in determining eligibility for the vaccine appointments, prioritizing those appointments, and of course, targeting members of the underserved communities that have a disproportionate burden of the COVID-19 pandemic. So it's staff's recommendation that your board approve this resolution, or excuse me, this MOU authorizing me to sign it.
Thank you very much. Dr. Pace, did you have anything you wish to add to that?
No, I don't think so. That seems like a great overview of it. Thanks, Carol.
All right, thank you very much. Any comments or questions from the board on this document, on this MOU? Yes, Supervisor Pyska?
So Dr. Pace, you've been moving the vaccines around according to need with the different organizations in the county. So if you're not able to do that any longer, then how are we going to make sure that we have everything administered if there's a larger amount in one area that can't be used? If we're not able to shift it around, how are we going to make sure that we don't have waste?
What they're doing is, that's a great question. And that's the kind of the basis of any concern that we have. We're basically, the state administrator is taking over that function. So they will be working directly with each of the providers in the county, and they'll be monitoring their inventory and determining how much vaccine they need. If they're not using it up, then they won't get any more. Theoretically, if they need more, they'll be giving them more. They're going to direct it to the areas with the highest health equity concerns. They'll direct more vaccine to those folks. And so this is basically, they want control over this, and we're just going to be one of the providers. So the other folks in the community will be providers with their own relationship with the state. We won't be in the middleman role for this.
And are they going to be providing more staff so that
to us to do things? There's discussions about what resources we need. We tell them what we need. We've had these conversations with them for many months, and we've gotten a couple people. Right now I think we have 2 data people, and but we're basically, with Carol's help and Pam's help in HR, right now we've hired 16 temp workers. That just shows kind of the need we have. The state has provided 2 people, and they're very intermittent. So they say they're going to help us, so we'll see. But, Lake County does this. We step it up, and off we go.
So we're still going to be relying heavily on volunteers, likely?
If they send people, we won't need to use so many volunteers.
We're not relying on volunteers heavily, I wouldn't say. I mean, we do have some. The bulk of our reliance is on paid staff. This is a huge effort.
Right. I mean, the volunteers are mainly the clinical people tend to be the volunteers. They're the retired nurses, retired doctors. But most of the staff are either county DSWs that are redirected, or temp workers, different things like that. So yeah, it's Carol's right. It's a huge lift, and we are really appreciative of the support of HR and of the local partners that are helping us get people in here.
We're also really grateful to the volunteers that are stepping up. We shouldn't leave a mention of volunteers without expressing our extreme gratitude.
So I know that there's been discussion about mobile vaccination sites and being able to reach the people that are difficult to reach. And so is that a discussion that the TPA is also having for a rural county like ours?
Sure. That's a huge need. That would be very high up on our requests, and it is, that when we talk about the resources we're requesting, that's one of the things that's always on the list. So we'll see. The other thing is the state's talking about potentially getting OptumServe, the people that are doing the testing sites, to come in and do some vaccination sites. They're starting to pilot that in some of the larger counties. And so, there's a lot of talk about possibilities. So we'll see. This is going to go on for months. So this is, we've gotten something like 10% of the population, like 20% of the population partially vaccinated now. So we got a long way to go. To keep this level of staffing and things going, we could sure use the state help and use some of these other creative options.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Anyone else with a comment or question on this item? Supervisor Simon?
Yes. Dr. Page, just for, in your collaboration, it's been working very well with Sutter Adventists. Currently, everyone who is giving vaccines, have you had discussions on who is moving forward with this agreement? Because as you say, they need to be doing that. Do we have everyone that is currently, including ourselves, looking at this agreement that are administering vaccine in the county? Are they moving forward with this agreement? Do you know?
My understanding is this agreement is an MOU with the county and the state but I think the providers have to do a contractual agreement. Is that right, Carol?
Yes, it would be, they have to do an agreement. It wouldn't be this one exactly, but I think the question is, are you aware of the other local providers moving in that direction where they would continue?
Right. So we've had the state, so we're not brokering these with any of them. So they're not, but we were reaching out to them and saying, this is the way it's going. If you want to keep doing this, it's going to be between you and the state. We're not in the middle anymore. And they all expressed interest and willingness. The first step was they have to get on my turn. And all the ones that are working now, North Lake Pharmacy, Safeway, Lakeview Clinic, Sutter and Adventist, I believe, are all going on to my turn. And then they have to set up these agreements with the state and be willing to jump through, because there's a lot more hoops, there's data agreements and things like that. As far as I know, they are all at least considering it. Whether they're going to cement the deal or not, I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. And thank you for clarifying that, Carol. That was the question. What we've always been battling is making sure we get enough supply, but now it seems like there may be just checking to see if we're going to be limiting our supply by somebody stepping out and not doing an agreement. So that was my question. And going forward, I know you've done a great job of collaboration on all those calls last year, and just talking about what's happening with all the different agencies in the county given these. So that was one of my questions. And then ultimately, another question on this agreement. I think it's in Section 3. On the agreement down the bottom, the county's responsibilities. Thought there was I think it's number C. They said, they could request some assistance from the county, and the county would have to provide it. I have a concern with just that one section. All of our questions, when we did talk to Ms. West, I think of CDPH last week, talking about potential going forward with this was, hey, listen, we need support from the county or from the state to the county, not from the county to this agency. And so I just had a concern on that one. I think the MOU obviously is something we're moving forward, and I may have that wrong, but I think it's Section 3, Part C, county responsibilities that I'd like to remove that and say, put it in the other direction. That if we request from the state or from Blue Shield or whoever we're going into this with, that they provide us help. We've been telling them that we've been stressed. We talked about the volunteers, the temp help, but looking through it, understand why we're talking about it today. But that one, that really jumped out at me, especially knowing our current constraints.
So, Supervisor Simon, my understanding of that Section 3, number C, is really about ensuring that we cooperate with the third-party administrator, even though we're not going to be bound contractually to them, which is a better status for us. And I know that Anita Grant, through her County Council Association, was involved in some of the discussions that led to that language, and she may have an additional comment. I see she's off mute. And certainly we're going to continue to convey the message that we need resources from them. But I don't believe that's really the intent of this. So Anita, did you understand it differently?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, in regard to this, Supervisor Simon's point is actually well taken among the lawyers who worried about just wide open requests. That's why there was the inclusion of the word reasonably, as may be reasonably requested by the agency, to give some authority back to the local jurisdictions in terms of determining what's reasonable. So your point's well taken, sir.
Yeah. Well, thank you for getting the reasonably name in there, obviously, and we'll continue it every conversation we have. I know as board members, to let them know that the state needs to be helping us, or this agency needs to be helping us with support. So I just wanted to point that out. Appreciate the clarification from the legal standpoint, putting that control back to us, having the opportunity to deny the request if it's not possible.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any other comments or questions from board members? So I have a question to Ms. Grant. Did I miss your hand being waved, Supervisor Pyska? Go ahead, Supervisor Pyska.
I just had one more question about resources. Will we get any help with or assisting with vaccine hesitancy?
Not under this agreement. That would be more of a public outreach, community education plan. Dr. Pace, any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I don't think this agreement addresses that. I mean, we could do you want to talk about it? Yeah, because I think, the hesitancy is going to be a big issue. It's not right now because we don't have enough vaccine for the demand. So the two groups that are working with the RFPs, with the Latino community and the Native American community, are starting to address that. And I think this is going to be, and now, I mean, I don't know, the news we're reading now is that there's people of a certain political stripe have a very strong preference to not get vaccinated, and we'll probably want to reach out to those folks as well and try to encourage it. So, I don't think that's going to be addressed really with this agreement or with the TPA, but it's part of just public health messaging. I think Hope Rising is one of the places where they're going to be helping us quite a bit with this too.
Okay, thank you for that question. I have a question for Ms. Grant. What exactly on this agreement is changeable, or are we kind of bound to what's in front of us, or else the state says no? Because there are some other things. I'm really glad that Supervisor Simon mentioned Section 3C. That was one of my issues as well. They should be coming in here to collaborate with us and to complement our work, not tell us that, hey, we're coming in and you're going to help us when we need you. It's the opposite. You're coming to our house. And the contract does not read well for somebody that's coming to our house. In fact, I would almost say that I feel like I had two separate conversations, one with Carrie West from the CDPH, who said this is really going to be a collaborative effort. They're going to help you take care of areas where you need help. And then here it says no more collaboration with the hospitals. They'll take care of themselves. Well, what if they have some hurdles they can't overcome and we have a gap? Why can't we continue some of the work that we've been doing where we can share, where they have direct access to patients, where public health is not necessarily a direct access to patients, it's just direct access to the public. So I just have certain issues in there. So Ms. Grant, what is our flexibility with within this MOU rather than just this is what it is, it's a take it or leave it situation?
Anita, are you able to unmute?
I sent an unmute request to her.
I made a really important point, but it was lost to the annals of time because Let me begin again.
Thank you.
There is truly no effective changes that are going to be made at this point. And counties have been discussing, and the county councils group had a work group. The last information, and I can give it to you, that we received on Friday and Monday, if you'll indulge me a moment, I'll read it to your board and the public.
Please.
The state views the MOU as the mechanism for counties to tell the state they want to continue to be part of the vaccine provider network once the TPA takes over. The state does not view the MOU itself as taking away a county's ability to allocate vaccine. They view it as a decision already made by the state when the TPA was created to centralize vaccine allocation. In other words, the state's already made this decision. The MOU doesn't change the decision the state's already made with regard to allocation, which is obvious in the MOU, but not created by the language of the MOU. For the state's point of view, then, a county's consideration or any provider's consideration of the MOU is about whether your county wants to continue to be part of the vaccine allocation system as a provider. If the county doesn't sign it, it's unclear if the state would remove the county from the vaccine network, but certainly it would stymie your progress with regard to vaccines, one would assume. There was a question that was asked of the government operations department, the state level, as to whether the county could retain its own administration of allocation of vaccine, with the understanding that it would take special care to ensure that it had complete responsibility for tracking and data. And that was completely rejected. It's not possible, the state believes, to implement a limiting principle to prevent sub-allocation. And again, what we're understanding is, from the state's perspective, they've made these decisions. The MOU reflects the decisions the state's already made.
Right. And what is the possibility of us maybe having like a side letter with the MOU to say this is our expectations of how this MOU will be handled? Because let me just read a few sections that bother me. One is the county shall not reallocate or redistribute to other healthcare providers any vaccine it receives through its allocation. County shall use all vaccine it receives through its allocations to administer to individuals it serves as a healthcare provider. It's kind of weird because I don't see us as a healthcare provider. We're public health. We don't necessarily have specific patients, unless this page pretty much says the entire county is our patient, which is what it kind of sounds like. But it's asking us to take on what hospitals could be taking on, because again, it's not 100% sure that hospitals are all going to get these contracts done, whether it's done in a timely fashion or done at all. And so then that means that there's more burden on public health, and yet they're saying that we need to give them resources rather than them give us resources. So it seems to be asking us to take on more, but yet not really promising us to give us anything to help with that, other than you will continue to receive vaccine. It just seems, it bothers me. Then later on, it says on section, where was it? There we go. Section 2I, where on the last part, it says, county acknowledges that by signing this MOU, it is joining the statewide network of providers administering the COVID-19 vaccine that is supported by the TPA, acting as agency's agent and at agency's direction. So that's complete control over us. We are acting under the agency's direction. Under the agency's direction. Then the county acknowledges agency's expectation that all providers in the statewide vaccinator network, which is us, will reasonably cooperate with the TPA. And I would just like to have a message that says we would like the TPA to also meet our expectations of what our community requirements are, what our community needs are. It just, again, it's somebody coming into our house and saying, this is our expectation and you will act under our direction. Ouch. So if you give us 25 people to take care of the clinic, we will provide the resources you need to help with whatever else might be extra. But if you're just coming in and we still need to provide the 25 folks that are doing the vaccine clinics every single day and possibly taking on more people to go through the vaccine clinic, where do we win on this other than the threat that we're not going to receive any more vaccines if we say no? And so if there's really no choice and we're kind of put to the gun here to sign this or possibly lose and fail, can we add a little bit of a side letter just to at least express ourselves that this is really not a great MOU to send at a time like this. This is not collaboration. This is not what I read when I read this MOU.
Well, sir, to the state's view, it is collaboration or as collaborative as they intend to be. Again, because they've made these decisions with regard to allocations, they've made these decisions with regard to TPA. They've made all of these decisions, and those decisions are not changing, at least at this point, by the state. So the MOU reflects the decisions the state's already made and the county's participation in this process. Certainly, you can draft a letter expressing your concerns, and it's quite possible that as this program rolls out, the state will become more amenable to changes as they see what works and what doesn't work. So that's one of the values of having a good relationship with the state at this point, so that if there's an opportunity to actually adjust some things, you'll be able to do it at a future point if, again, the opportunity presents itself. The state is trying to get this vaccine out to as many as quickly as possible, and this is their determination as to how to do it. I wouldn't suggest a side letter because it's going to have no legal force and effect. You can't force the state to accept a side letter. They may view the side letter as a rejection of the agreement. You can send a separate letter if your board wishes to on a different agenda item, or you can direct staff to come back with an agenda item today that would express some of your concerns. But it's my understanding that there is no option for further adjustment to this agreement. Now, having said that, never say never when it comes to dealing with government agencies. But at this point in time, it's my understanding, and certainly Carol and Dr. Pace may echo that if they feel it's accurate, that this is exactly what's being presented, and there's no further adjustments beyond what have been made. And actually, moving this from an agreement directly with the TPA to an MOU with the California Government Operations Agency is actually quite significant and very helpful to the counties. So that was a big change, and I think a very helpful one.
And I appreciate the comment, and I'll look to the board to see if there's consensus to express those concerns through a letter. I don't think we have a choice. I think we have to approve this MOU. However, I think that our best friend in all of this is tribal health, because they don't go directly through the state. And so that can help us to continue with what's happening in the deployment to the community. And hopefully we can get the rest of the vaccine clinics over at Sutter and Adventist and everywhere else to follow through and finalize their contracts. I think that those are all possible, but again, there's the potential that there could be some lag time and so on. So I'm willing to move forward. I don't think there's a choice. Looking to see if the board is interested in a letter that expresses those concerns, or if that's a complete waste of time to even discuss that.
Mr. Chair, just to be clear, you do have a choice. Obviously, you can reject it.
In my mind, the choice is very cloudy. It's a no choice. CAO Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I understand the frustrating nature of this. It certainly doesn't feel right to have this imposed upon us when we've been operating sites very capably here. And we've conveyed that in all of our discussions with state and also Blue Shield officials. We've conveyed to them that what we really need our staff resources to continue to operate for the long haul, as opposed to another layer of data collection. Nonetheless, they've made it clear that if we want to continue, this is how we can do it. And as far as the concept of us being an agent to the state, I just wanted to add that as the longtime director of social services, it was commonplace for the department to be referred to as an agent for the state. We were an agent that carried out state programs for which the state set all the rules and provided the funding. So it is not a terribly unusual relationship for the county to serve as an agent for the state when it's their program.
I'd like to see the resources that, and in response to something you said, yes, we've been doing a fantastic job of putting together a vaccine clinic and deploying the vaccine, but not without the struggles and not without the burden of putting all that together, and to expect that to continue with now we're going to be directed by another layer of bureaucracy, and to provide resources when requested by that layer of bureaucracy. I think I see it as just slightly rude. So again, just looking to, let's go ahead and if we're done with board comments and questions, let's go ahead and open it up to the public. Okay, looks like we're done. Jake, let's go ahead and open it up for the public, please.
All right, I've sent an unmute request out to the Zoom room floor. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name.
Okay, hearing none, let's bring it back to the board. I don't think that I should be asking for consensus on anything that's not on our agenda currently. So let's just shy away from that conversation. We'll see what happens in a future agenda item. But let's go ahead. If there's no further comment or deliberation, let's go ahead and take action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve memorandum of understanding between California Government Operations Agency and the County of Lake authorizing the county administrative officer to sign.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Johanna, please, roll call.
Supervisor Simon,
Yes.
Supervisor Crandall,
Aye.
Supervisor Scott,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, again, our 4.2 item will be placed later in our agenda. We're going to go ahead and move forward. Thank you very much to Dr. Pace for both those last two items. Appreciate your time. However, we are a little bit behind schedule. Our 9:15 a.m. public hearing, item 6.3, consideration of resolution declaring county-owned real property as surplus and proposed real property exchange. CAO Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're a lot more excited about this item than we were the last one. We go willingly forward with this one. And so I'd like to introduce Susan Parker, our Assistant CAO, who's going to present it to you.
Good morning, Board. In January, this board heard a presentation of the Lakeport Armory Clear Lake property land swap and Senator McGuire. At that time, the board gave direction to staff to complete all the necessary tasks needed to proceed with this project. Since then, the Clear Lake Planning Commission has adopted a general plan consistency determination for the county-owned property, and the Lake County Planning Commission adopted a general path conformity report for the state-owned property in preparation for today's public hearing. I want to thank both those commissions and their respective staff for moving very quickly on those two items. The next steps include actions needed by this board. First is to declare surplus and the intent to exchange the county-owned property with the state of California by adopting the two resolutions presented. Second is to authorize the CAO to negotiate, execute, and implement the property exchange agreement with the state of California. Again, I am here. I'm available for any questions you may have, as is the CAO. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, this looks very straightforward. We've already had the discussion on why we're doing these things. Appreciate you bringing this back to us. It's that extra step that's needed to be able to make that progress we're looking for. I do have a question about the process, if that's something I can ask. Is this our final step, or what other potential steps are coming in the near future, just as far as the swap goes?
Swap, what's that?
I don't know.
I'll be more than happy to answer that. The next, we are waiting for a draft exchange agreement from the state of California. I know Anita has been involved in that process. Oh, I forgot to thank Anita for doing the resolutions. I apologize. But the next step is, again, we are waiting for that exchange agreement from the state of California to review and negotiate.
Okay, so basically we're opening up for those things to happen, and then that will be the next step that we take. Okay. Do we have an ETA on that? Do we have a timeline on when that might come back to us?
At this point in time, we do not. I apologize. I did request that information, but I have not received a response yet.
Maybe let them know that we approved their MOU.
I will.
Where they can
Absolutely.
help us move forward faster.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Parker. Do we have any other comments from the board before we open it up to the public? All right, Jake, let's go ahead and open up the Zoom room for any,
Before you open it to the public, I just wanted to recognize that we have two of our partners in this project in the room as well, in case they wanted to speak. We have Sheriff Brian Martin and we have Clear Lake City Manager Alan Flora here. I don't know if they have a comment, but.
Sheriff Martin?
I don't have any comment. I want to thank the board and the county admin officer and all the other stakeholders, including the city of Clear Lake, in the continued collaboration and cooperation participation. It's a long project. We're not done with it yet, but I know there's a lot of work by a lot of people and a lot of moving parts. And I just want to express my gratitude as this process continues. I don't have anything else to contribute.
Thank you very much, Sheriff. City Manager Flora?
Yeah, thank you. Nothing, I'll just echo what Sheriff Martin said. Just appreciate the collaboration on this and looking forward to seeing the project move forward. So thanks to the board.
Yeah, thank you very much for your work and your planning commission as well. Let's go ahead, Jake, and open up the Zoom room for any public comment.
All right, I've sent a unmute request out to the Zoom room floor. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name. Reminder to the individuals joining us via phone, you could dial *9 to raise your hand.
Okay, it seems we have no public comment on this item. And let's go ahead and bring it back to the board. We have two resolutions to approve unless there's further deliberation.
All right, I guess I'll go forward here. Mr. Chair, I'll go ahead and offer the resolution for the Armory swap intent to exchange.
Okay, resolution has been offered. Johanna, roll call, please.
Okay, Supervisor Simon,
Aye.
Supervisor Crandall,
Yes.
Supervisor Scott.
Try again.
Aye.
Okay, Supervisor Pyska
Yes.
and Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, resolution passes. And then the next one is the Armory swap execution implementation of exchange.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion again. I'll offer the resolution.
Okay, resolution has been offered. Johanna, roll call, please.
All right, Supervisor Simon,
Aye.
Supervisor Crandall,
Aye.
Supervisor Scott,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And a great example of collaboration between state and county and city as well to get all of this stuff done and moving forward. So thank you to everybody involved. Moving on, it looks like we're right on time now. On our 10:15 a.m. item, presentation of Proclamation of March of Meals 2021. And I've invited folks from our senior centers to be here today. I'm not sure if any of them are present, but I will go ahead and start reading the proclamation. Proclamation designated the month of March 2021 as March for Meals Month, whereas over 220,000 meals, quite different, are provided annually to homebound seniors in Lake County so they may live independently in their homes for as long as possible. And whereas the loyal volunteers who prepare and deliver Meals on Wheels provide consistent and dependable meal delivery and daily wellness checks for Lake County seniors in need. And whereas the senior centers and their program partners bring together the community, local businesses, and community organizations for the purpose of providing nutrition, hope, and independence to homebound seniors and those in need. And whereas COVID-19 has increased the demand from our senior centers' Meals on Wheels programs, and our senior centers have stepped up to the challenge and continue to provide a basic necessity to those who are deemed as some of the most vulnerable in our communities. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Lake does hereby declare the month of March 2021, my mistake, as March for Meals Month in Lake County, and recognizes the vital role of senior centers and community volunteers in addressing the needs of seniors in Lake County. Passed the 16th day of March, 2021. And wondering if we have anybody from our senior centers who may wish to speak. If so, please unmute yourselves. And I don't see any.
I've sent an unmute request out to the Zoom floor to grab any interest.
So one of my reasons for asking for this proclamation to be put on the agenda is my appreciation for the fact that once COVID-19 hit about a year ago, our senior center started to see a huge, drastic increase in demand for Meals on Wheels. They've done a great job in fundraising during these tough times, getting help from Rotary, getting help from other community service groups to be able to provide that level of food to our seniors. As we know, COVID-19 has impacted our seniors the most, as they were the most vulnerable. And the fact that the senior center and their volunteers continued to provide as many meals as they did to our community during the pandemic is just something that needs to be acknowledged and to share our appreciation for their hard work. So just wanted to be very thankful and offer my gratitude to all our senior centers. Any comments from our board members before we move on? Supervisor Scott?
Just thank you, Bruno, for bringing this to our attention. Definitely, COVID has really shined a light on the fact that our seniors are homebound and they need those meals. I participated in March for Meals for the last many years, and it was always great to get out there and let people know about our seniors needing these meals. And I'm really going to miss that, having not been able to participate this year, but maybe next year we'll be able to bring that March for Meals back to Lakeport, where we march down the streets, bringing attention for our seniors.
It was like a little mini protest. I remember seeing you. Supervisor Simon?
Yeah, just want to follow up to it and just really thank all of our senior centers. This year they have just stepped up. I mean, the drive-through operations they put together with volunteers and others it's just so commendable. So obviously I just want to thank each and every one of them, all the volunteers, obviously participated in the March for Meals every year and also delivering the home meals, which is the most critical thing for our seniors who are homebound or just can't get out. It's that little bit of human contact and really someone checking in on them. So, please, if you have an opportunity to do that, participate and deliver those meals because you want to sit down and just talk with the elders in the community and understand what they're dealing with. So just can't thank them enough. Today, they're probably not on because they're preparing the meals for the current noon drive-through. So once again, just want to thank them. Did make our Middletown Senior Center aware and, those folks, and they're like, yeah, we're busy. Thank you. And we'll just make sure to get that out there and pass that word on. So just want to thank them, so much for all the work that they've done.
Thank you, Supervisor. And you're right. It's more than just food. It's a lot more than just food. Supervisor Pyska, did you have a comment?
I just want to extend my gratitude and thanks for all the volunteers also. It's such a light for people to have a little bit of contact when we've been so isolated over this last year.
Thank you. Supervisor Crandall?
Yes, I can echo the same and also, thank a lot of the volunteers. I know it's on the North Shore, their meals are usually served through Lakeport, but I know that they're working on their own different, initiatives. But again, it's wonderful to have some sort of resource for the seniors and not only the contact, but also just, that they're not too in tune with a lot of things going on online. And so they get this information, they get information through people that bring things like this, because there might be a flyer or something like that. So that's information for them, at times. It's more than, you're right, it's more than just a meal. So.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I appreciate you bringing up Lakeport supporting the North Shore. I'm thankful for Lake Family Resource Center for really stepping it up and providing the assistance to both Lakeport and the North Shore to help with their seniors, because I know that there was some changes that occurred during the pandemic as well. So, all right. Thank you very much, everybody. Let's go ahead and move on to item 6.5, 10:16 a.m. item, presentation of proclamation designated March 2021 as American Red Cross Month. Supervisor Pyska.
Thank you. I have someone from the Red Cross on here today. Let's see. Yeah, Deborah Smith is here. She reached out and I was happy to collaborate on this proclamation. Red Cross has come to our aid in this county over and over and over. And once again this year with the COVID pandemic response. So I'm going to read the proclamation. The Board of Supervisors, County of Lake, State of California proclamation designating the month of March 2021 as American Red Cross Month in Lake County. Whereas, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Whereas March is American Red Cross Month, a special time to honor the kindness of our neighbors who aid families in need every day in our community, across the United States and around the world. Their dedication touches millions of lives each year as they carry on the organization's 140-year mission of preventing and alleviating suffering. And whereas during the trying times of the coronavirus pandemic, people have stepped up to help each other in need, whether it was responding to this year's record-breaking disasters across the country or rolling up their sleeves to give blood when our country faced a severe blood shortage. And whereas here in Lake County, families have relied on local Red Cross volunteers for comfort and hope while coping with many wildfires in recent years throughout the Northern California region, and over 165,000 meals and snacks were served to those in need, and 38,903 hotel rooms were provided for safe shelter. In addition to serving friends and neighbors here at home, many local Red Cross volunteers also deployed virtually to assist with disasters around the country. And whereas local volunteers have also supported families in other ways. Since January 2020, volunteers have responded to 500 home fires, helping 1,983 people address urgent needs like food, lodging, and recovery support. Last year, the Red Cross hosted more than 300 regional blood drives, collecting 5,785 units of life-saving blood. Red Cross volunteers provided emergency services for 2,118 people through our Service to the Armed Forces program and enrolled 16,329 people in first aid, CPR, and AED training. And whereas this life-saving work is vital to strengthening our community's resilience, nearly 200 years since the birth of the Red Cross founder, Clara Barton, we dedicate this month of March to all of those who continue to advance her noble legacy. And we ask others to join in their commitment to care for the people in need. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Lake County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims March 2021 as Red Cross Month and encourage all Americans to reach out and support its humanitarian mission. passed and adopted the 16th day of March, 2021. So, I've been an event-based volunteer with the Red Cross for many of our disasters, and the dedication of this humanitarian cause of all of these volunteers never ceases to amaze me. And I don't know if a lot of people realize that the volunteers come, when we have a fire, volunteers come from all over the country. Many of them come from the Bay Area. They actually work full-time jobs. They have agreements with their employers to use their vacation time to come up here to deploy for a disaster here or anywhere around the country. That's how dedicated they are. They're not employees. They're volunteers who leave their jobs and their families to come to our aid over and over. And I just really want to express that gratitude and make sure that our community is aware of that. And I've just met so many amazing people, and their dedication is it's tremendous. So I thank all of the volunteers near and far who have come to our county, and I'm wondering if Deborah would like to say a few words as well.
Thank you, Supervisor. Basically, what we would like to say is thank you, Lake County, for all the support, working in partnership to be able to provide service to our residents here, and also our volunteers that are coming from Lake, who are going out across the nation in our deployments. So we too in Lake County are sending people out in addition to getting people coming in. To do that one, I want to thank everyone here. I know Supervisor Simon and all his work, and the rest of everyone on the board that goes forward. And it is our privilege to serve as a volunteer. It is one of the most rewarding things that I do in my life. So I want to encourage everyone to be able to have that same experience, and thank you again.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Pyska. Any comments from the board on this item?
Yeah, I would just like to make a comment. Obviously, Jessica, thank you for bringing this forward, but experiencing it firsthand, all the work that's done by our Red Cross volunteers, our local volunteers, ones who come here, are just exceptional, especially this last year with everything that was going on with the pandemic. I know they were stretched very thin, but they've always come to the aid of our constituents here in Lake County. So they've also done a great job of strengthening their agreements throughout the county with different agencies, obviously with the county also being always involved. So just want to thank them very much. It's a very worthy cause, and all the volunteers, just really deserve all the recognition that they get. Even though it's a small proclamation, it really comes from the heart of thank you very much for everything that you do. So just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any other comments? Supervisor Scott?
I just want to echo what Supervisor Simon just said, but I love the fact that this proclamation also brought out the fact of the single fires, the 500 home fires. I think we forget about that sometimes, that Red Cross doesn't always, not only comes in for those big massive events that we have, but they're here for the little fires of homes and families, getting them into a hotel and taking care of them right on the spot. So just thank you, Red Cross, for all that you do. I've seen them in action at our shelters. They're absolutely amazing. They're always there in front, set up, ready for people to come in, and just can't thank them enough for all that they do for us.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Crandall?
Thank you, Red Cross.
And I'll say something. I listened to the entirety of it, not just the beginning part. I know that during our fires, there's there's some in our communities that get frustrated with the rules of Red Cross. But when you look at the big picture, those rules are necessary to have a smooth flowing operation. And when you again look at the big picture, without Red Cross being here during our great emergencies and unfortunate tragedies that we've had, we would be drowning. And so thank you, Red Cross, for always being there and providing, and I think in collaboration with everyone else in our community that cares enough to step up and provide something outside of just themselves to help the community. Red Cross is a leader for that. So thank you for all that you do. Jake, let's go ahead and open up the Zoom room for public comment.
All right, I've sent a unmute request out to the Zoom room floor. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name. Reminder to all the individuals joining via Zoom, you could raise your hand by dialing *9. And Zoom participants can find the raise hand under the participants window.
Okay, and hearing none, let's bring it back to the board. Supervisor Pyska, if you want to finish this off.
Oh, I am, okay. Is it so I present a resolution?
I'm just wondering if you had any final words.
Oh, no.
Proclamation has been read. Thank you very much. Deborah Smith, thank you very much for the work you do in our community. Okay, it is 10:31, perfect timing for our 6.6 item. 10:30 a.m. is, I think I saw Ms. Martinez on here. I'm not sure if I saw Barbara Ringen, but looks like we have at least one person. Let's go ahead and move forward. Our 10:30 a.m. item is consideration of update from Treasurer Tax Collector on tax sale, investment advisor request for proposals, and investment policy. And if we can help unmute either Elizabeth Martinez and here comes Ms. Ringen. And she's connecting to audio. So I'll briefly introduce this item. I wanted to request for a report on exactly what occurred with our last tax sale to get about an understanding of how it impacted our teeter, how it impacted our revenues, and just how many of those properties that were offered were sold. And then we had also requested in the past to go through an investment advisor request for proposal so we can choose a new contractor to work our investments, and wanted to find out where we were in that process, and also the investment policy where we were requesting for, based on what the State Controller's Office allows, which is to create a committee for the investment policy, if that is still being worked on as well. So just wanted to get an update from our tax collector on all those things. Hopefully she's connected. Yep, looks like she's here. Ms. Ringen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. I just joined. Did you want to talk about the investment policy first, RFP, or the tax sale information?
All of the above, and whichever order you feel is appropriate.
Okay. So let's first start with the tax sale. The tax sale 158 was held on January 29th through February 2nd, 2021. There were 145 parcels that were offered for sale. 11 parcels were redeemed. The taxes were paid prior to auction. 65 parcels were sold at the auction. And there were also 65 parcels that no bid were received. The current secured taxes for 2021 that were paid in total, $54,568.16. The prior year delinquent secured redemption amount paid was $1,323,407.87. The deficit amount, $322,776. Going forward, the final sale report will be final once we publish for the excess proceeds. That determines the final cost And then right now it's just a preliminary final sale report. So, and I'm available to answer any questions that you might have concerning this auction.
Any questions or comments on the tax sale? So I appreciate the information. Can you provide some information about the tax sale? And I might have the wording wrong. The extra proceeds or the excess proceeds. I'm sorry. How does somebody whose property was sold go about accessing those proceeds?
We notice them. We send out notification when we publish in the newspaper, and then we actually send by mail a notification to anyone who has an interest in the property or possibly have an interest in the property that they have a right to claim excess proceeds. The claim period is 1 year from the date the tax deed records in order to submit that claim. And then, of course, they would have to provide backup depending upon the claim that they are submitting to us.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And any further questions on this item or this specific portion of the item? Okay, if we can go ahead and move on to the RFP for the investment advisor.
Yes. Okay, so the update for the investment advisor RFP, our office is moving forward with the review of the request for proposals. We have set a tentative date for the investment panel to meet, and that date is Wednesday, April 14th. When the winning proposal is selected by the panel, we'll come back in front of your board for review and approval. And updating the investment policy at that time will be a priority once the investment advisor has been selected and approved.
Perfect. And at what point do you think that the creation of the oversight committee for investments would be created once the RFP is completed, or will they be a part of the process for approval of the investment policy or coming up after that?
Maybe hand in hand, maybe at the same time. I think it's important first to select the investment advisor, and then possibly secondary, the investment panel to review that. So I think everyone can work together on that.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Ms. Ringen? Okay, so hopefully if there's a review on April 14th, and granted if there's a good option to choose from the candidates from the RFPs, hopefully by around June or July that these things will be finalized. Is this a good enough ETA?
Yes, that is a good ETA, yes.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Let's go ahead, Jake, and open up for the public to ask questions or make comments in the Zoom room, please.
All right, I've sent an unmute request out to the Zoom room floor. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name.
Okay, hearing none, let's bring it back to the board. Any final questions or comments? This was just a informational agenda item, no action required. Perfect. Ms. Ringen, thank you very much for the information, and we look forward to the investment contract coming to us in the near future.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, it is 10:40. Our next item is at 10:50. So Supervisor Crandall, do you think this is an opportune time to take up 4.2? Do you think 10 minutes is good or approximately?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think it'd be fine.
Okay, let's go ahead and open up item 4.2 that has been approved for discussion. And this is the consideration of letter to the Board of Forestry authorizing the chair to sign, voicing our opposition to proposed revisions to the state minimum fire safe regulations. Supervisor Crandall.
And so we discussed this in RCRC last week, and the Department of Forest, or the Board of Forestry, is putting forward some initiatives. And I was some safety regulations, and in our letter we're opposing their regulations because it puts a situation where it hinders current, or let's say a house is affected by a fire, it puts restrictions on them rebuilding. And so I also cleared it and talked with Director De Leon, and he felt he would be okay with it. I wouldn't have put it on if he wasn't okay with it as well. And so I didn't want to, we felt all the same way at RCRC. We don't want to hinder anybody rebuilding any situation when it comes to that. So in that, it's imperative that we get a letter in, because a lot of county officials aren't putting letters of opposition or letting them know their opposition or their feelings on this. And so we would like to be a part of it more and do it together. And so the meeting that they're having next Tuesday with these letters will kind of put more emphasis on creating policies that are better for rural counties. So.
Thank you very much, Supervisor. Any comments or questions from the board? Supervisor Simon?
I want to thank you for bringing this to the board's attention, EJ. Definitely in support of the letter. We have another agenda item we'll be addressing here locally, but we understand where we live and the opportunities to rebuild after devastating fires, but also learning as we go forward. So risk reduction is something, we take very serious here in Lake County. So I just appreciate you bringing that and getting these comments there. It's always outside agencies looking to, put restrictions on, completely statewide, and it just doesn't work that way. Each community, has local, opportunities to really look at the risks as they're rebuilding their communities and also building any future communities. So I appreciate the letter. It's too bad we can't be on, or you couldn't be on the call next week, but it looks like timing just doesn't allow for that. So appreciate the letter and those opportunities brought to the board. So I'm in complete support.
Thank you, Supervisor Simon. Supervisor Pyska?
I thank you for bringing this as well, and I'm in complete support. We had an instance after the Valley Fire where almost a whole street couldn't rebuild because of outside agency restrictions, and it's now we have a place that's never going to be rebuilt, and it's going to sit that way forever. So I appreciate you looking out for us, and thank you.
Supervisor Scott?
Definitely in support of this letter. I know that they have the meeting next Tuesday and you're unable to attend, but are we able to send staff to be able to voice our concern at this meeting?
Appreciate the suggestion, Supervisor.
Yeah, I can talk with Tracy. She sent me an email to coordinate if any of us can either make it, or I can coordinate with her to see if we can send staff. Of course, RCRC will be there. And since we work with them, that'll be another another auspicious person there, at least for us, Yeah. And another thing I didn't mention was it affects businesses as well, small businesses that may be affected by these fires. And so that's another thing we can't afford to lose in our county as well. And there's a lot more of these type of things that I need to get over to the Risk Reduction Authority. This one just came quick, so I wasn't able to kind of coordinate with you all. So I hope you don't mind. I just put it on and jump to it. But some other initiatives I'll be bringing to you another way. That way you can get it straight to you, and you guys can take care of these things because you're on that committee.
If they were unhappy with the process, they're hiding it very well. I think that can we have a consensus from the board to request that staff represent during that call? Is that something that we're interested in? I know that there was 2 board members that said yes, but I just want to make sure it's a consensus and not just 2. So I see Supervisor Pyska saying yes. I see, okay, everybody says yes, including myself.
I think it's actually a Monday meeting, and if it's a Monday meeting, I'll go to it. I'll just attend Zoom, yes.
Mr. Chair, it's 1 p.m. on Monday, the 22nd.
Yeah, I'll attend.
It's a teleconference only.
Unless one of you want to attend on the Risk Reduction Authority, I'll attend.
I think it may be good to have 2 representatives. So EJ, if you want to coordinate on this, I would be willing to join you also on the call. So we can coordinate that. Absolutely. We can talk after the meeting today, but I would definitely be interested in joining on that meeting. Since it's on Monday, I'll definitely make myself available.
Okay.
Perfect.
And Jessica, if you want to, we can coordinate that as well. I have no problem with it because I know you're both on that the Risk Reduction Authority, so I get it.
I think they could hear from Moak.
Okay. All right, excellent. I just was thinking if you both wanted, that's all.
It's okay. It's okay. You guys got this.
All right. Well, we'll set it up afterwards, Mo.
Perfect. Thank you for those comments. To me, the way that I read this letter is basically like a different version of SB 55 that said you can't do development in high fire risk areas in the state responsibility area. I see it very similar, where we're starting to see a slew of legislation or bureaucratic policies that are being created, which really hinder our capabilities to do much of anything. And unfortunately, our biggest issue has not necessarily been our developed areas. It's the wild land around those areas that are an issue. And we need to be able to manage those better and maybe enhance some of our rules to make it easier and more manageable to do those things, but not to just cancel it outright. I think that's, as I said in one of our conversations earlier, in one of our meetings that we had, COVID-19 is pushing people to rural areas, and you're trying to create policies that stop people from coming to rural areas. It just doesn't make sense. We have to be able to do better. We have to figure out how to say, yes, this is safe, not, no, it's not safe. We can't do anything about it. So appreciate the letter and looking forward to approving that. Let's go ahead and open it up to the public for public comment. Please, Jake.
All right, I've sent an unmute request out to the Zoom room floor. If you would like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name.
God damn it, hold on.
I fucking didn't want Johnny to leave.
Tony. Tony. All right, let's go ahead and bring it back to the board. And let's go ahead and take action.
I'll go ahead and move to approve the letter to the State Board of Forestry, authorizing you to sign, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Johanna, if we could please get a roll call.
Okay, Supervisor Simon,
Yes.
Supervisor Crandall,
Yes.
Supervisor Scott,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It is 10:48. Let's go ahead and take up item 7.3. Consideration of the following advisory board appointments, Audit Committee and Western Region Town Hall. And any comments or questions on these appointments from the board? Okay, any comments or let's go ahead and open up to the public, Jake, and see if there's any comments or questions about these potential appointments of, hopefully I pronounced the names right, Ronald Nagy and Thomas Aceves.
All right, I've sent an unmute request out to the Zoom room floor. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name. A reminder to the phone participants, you could unmute by dialing *9. I'm sorry, you could raise your hand by dialing *9.
Okay, and seeing none, let's go ahead and bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move that Ronald Nagy be considered for the Audit Committee.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the Audit Committee. Johanna, if we could please have a roll call.
Okay, Supervisor Simon,
Aye.
Supervisor Crandall,
Aye.
Supervisor Scott,
Oh, didn't hear you.
Aye.
okay, Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye. Thank you very much. And now looking for action on the Western Region Town Hall.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve Thomas Aceves to the Worth Town Council.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Johanna, roll call, please.
Okay, Supervisor Simon,
Aye.
Supervisor Crandall,
Aye.
Supervisor Scott,
And again.
Aye.
okay, Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye. I know you're not muted. I don't know what's going on your first one. It does. The artificial intelligence is masking what you're actually saying. Okay, it is 10:50. Our 10:50 a.m. item is going to take some time, I'm sure, to receive public input. I'm thinking we take a 10-minute break right now and come back at 11. Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
All right, let's reconvene at 11:01 since it is 10:51. A 10-minute break. Thank you, everybody. Okay, let's go ahead and continue and reconvene our regular meeting here. Oops, wrong computer. And we are on item 6.5, I believe. No, 6.6, no, 6.7. Our 10:15 a.m. item, consideration of A, resolution regarding early activations for cannabis cultivation, and B, new ad hoc committee to review, revise, and revamp the cannabis cultivation ordinance of Chapter 21, Article 27.13 AT. So we brought this to the board about 2 weeks ago to make some changes on both the ordinance and create a resolution for early activation. And after further discussion with both our county council and community development, really the only thing is to do a resolution to help clarify the process by which applicants and staff are required to follow based on state rules when dealing with CEQA. So before you is only a resolution to clarify those steps. And if we can share that quick presentation, should be very quick. Then we can go ahead and have that discussion and then open it up for further discussion. And so first it says if a cannabis cultivation applicant has already received an early activation permit, basically if you've already had one in the past, this is what you must have done in order to get another one in the future. We want to make sure that you are a partner with us and not somebody who's not following our rules. So you have to have paid your taxes, no violations during your early activation permit. You have to have obtained all your applicable state licenses and anything else that you would have been required to do from the state based on what activity you did with the early activation. So that would be number one. Number two, let's go to the next page, please. Number two, if you are seeking an early activation, you must have these things done. Initial study has been submitted because our county needs to be able to provide documentation and not just have a comment being told to them or even just a site look at your property to say, well, this is going to have minimum impact. We need documentation to be able to support our findings that you can go ahead and do the activity that we're allowing you to do in an early activation. So an initial study needs to be submitted. And if you had a prior early activation, that the exact footprint and square footage is on there, is being requested. And I know that some people expressed frustration with that because of the time it takes for us to get to our use permits. However, the more we change what's being asked of us on an early activation, the more we're taking time away from being able to focus on the use permit. If you are able to check off all the boxes of what's required to get an early activation and you've already had one, it's so much easier to just re-sign you early activation if everything is on the good and on the up and up versus having to re-review. This is a different plan. This is a different footprint. This is a different location. Is this going to have an impact to the environment or are we good to be able to move forward? So in order to simplify that process and try to help with the efficiencies in our staff while also providing the ability to get an early activation, I'm requesting in this resolution, it has been approved by both CDD and County Council to keep it at the exact same size as the previous early activation. Let's go ahead and move on to number 3, which is our last page. And then basically, once you have an early activation permit, the details of the permit shall not be changed. Again, this is to save staff time so that we're not continuously making changes to a permit, which is absolutely temporary versus focusing on the long-term permit, which is a 10-year commitment to doing these types of activities on the property. So that is the resolution before you. I also did change, and I didn't put it in the presentation, but I did change add a whereas in the recitals to basically state that the early activation is not meant to be a long-term permit. It's meant to be a stopgap between when we receive your application and your information, to finding that it's a minimal impact to the environment, to possibly being able to provide that early activation based on the findings that we receive. The idea is the use permit is the thing that we're supposed to focus on, not continuously providing early activation. With the lag that we have from being so popular for bringing cannabis to the communities here, we're doing the best that we can, and we're trying to provide some extra efficiency tools to help with the timelines. Early activation has been good to us because of that lag, but we need to ensure that early activation is not the end all of what your permit process is. It's really a stopgap between that and getting your actual use permit. So that is my presentation for today for Part A. Looking to open that up and have a discussion. Anybody from the board have any comments or questions? Thank you, Jake. Okay, I see no comments coming from the Supervisor Pyska.
I appreciate this resolution. I think it does exactly what we need to do. It's distilled down to, I think, the most important issues that we talked about a couple weeks ago or whenever that was. And I'm good with it.
Thank you very much. And just to put it out there, it can be opined that the resolution is unnecessary because all we're doing is clarifying what the process is based on what CEQA tells us to do. So it does provide that clarification, and I think it's needed to be written down somewhere so people have a better understanding of what the process is. Because many times, unfortunately, our community development department is targeted as you're asking me more than what we need, and this is what we need. We need to be able to follow these steps and make sure that we follow the right process. So appreciate the comment. If there's no further comment from the board. Supervisor Randall?
Yes, no, thank you for putting this forward. I support this as well, this resolution as well. So.
Okay, let's go ahead and open it up for the public. Jake, if you can open up the Zoom room. And I see one hand already. Let's start with Crystal Kesey.
Hi there. Good morning, supervisors. I just wanted, this is Crystal Kesey from Golden State Herb. I have some projects in various states of progress in Kelseyville, and we have been early activated previously. We actually agree with, we're thankful for the clarifications for the early activation process. The only thing that we would like to suggest is that if you're fully through the CEQA process, using my project as an example, where it's actually past the clearinghouse already and all the impacts have been evaluated, and we're just waiting for the continuation of our planning commission hearing. I'd love to be able to activate the entire entitlement that staff had already recommended to approve. So that would be my recommendation. That the only alteration I would request is that if you're just sort of in the line for the planning commission hearing, I early activated 10,000 square feet last year, but I sure would like to, and was planning on my full entitlement this year, and would sure like to do that even if the hearing is delayed, because we've shown that the impacts are not significant to the environment. So that's the only amendment that I would request to the clarification ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. And please don't let me forget, board, we do have a e-comment that I want to make sure to read into this meeting so that it's heard, but let's go ahead and continue with the public comment on our in the Zoom room.
Okay, I had a Charlene Wignall mention that she wanted to make a comment. I have sent you a unmute request, Charlene.
Okay, thank you.
Will you please confirm your first and last name, please?
Yes, my name is Charlene Wignall. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so a couple weeks ago, we spoke about requiring state licenses before the EA was going to be issued. Has that changed now? And then we spoke about the April 20th cutoff on the EA app. Has that changed? And then number 3 is the way I do it is I get the EA through the county and then I lease my land. So would I be able to get I couldn't find it in the zoning ordinance what the definition of the applicant is. Is that the tenant also, landlord and tenant? Meaning that the landlord would not have to be required to get the state licensing nor follow through with all the requirements with the metric, et cetera.
So let me just take that one at a time real quick. April 20th is no longer on this resolution at all.
Okay.
It is discretionary for the community development to provide an early activation. And there's times if you ask too late, it's just not possible to get that, but that will be up to staff and how they view the project. As far as the other questions about the, I forget the first question you asked was, can you repeat it?
Yeah, a couple weeks ago, I thought you guys had said that you were going to require the person who's cultivating to get their state licenses before you would issue the early activation permit. So that's off the table now?
So let me go ahead and ask, let me see. I do see that we have Deputy Director Thomas here with us. I don't see Director De Leon, so I'm going to call on Deputy Director Thomas. Actually, Director De Leon is here too. If one of you can please respond to that. I know there's been some policy changes in the past, and if you can discuss the state licensing and early activation, how do you work with those, and also what is the definition of applicant?
Okay. I'll go from reverse order. My name for the record, Tokara Nicole Thomas, Deputy Director. Per the CDFA Cannabis Cultivation Chapter 1 definition, an applicant means an owner of the applicant entity or sole proprietor applying for a state license pursuant to this division. The other definition, applicant entity, means the entity or sole proprietor applying for a state cannabis cultivation license, and that's the CDFA regulation, which was most recently updated in 2019. And then if we navigate to our ordinance, let's see here. And then I'm reading it specifically from the article just to make sure I don't paraphrase or get anything, make a mistake. And what was the other question?
The other question was about the early activation. Do they get their state first before getting early activation? And I know that there were some issues with some getting early activated but not able to get their state, at least in time. And then others who were waiting for state prior to being provided their early activation. I don't know if that was a internal policy change as far as the timing, and if that's concrete, or if that's something just to make sure that you discuss it, because I don't want to state the wrong policy.
Yeah, I think that is kind of a decision up to the applicant. We do have in the conditions of approval for early activation or use permit or minor use permit that you cannot cultivate until you have all applicable licenses. But an applicant can apply with CDFA for an annual or provisional license at any time. But it just then becomes kind of one of those things where if you apply with CDFA and they take a long time to get back to the county to get the license verification, it could potentially throw your process out of whack. But ultimately, that is kind of one of their decisions up to them. We do ask for proof before the use permit is fully vetted and approved. And we ask that they can show us proof before they begin planting. But as far as when they would like to determine when they would like to apply for the state versus the county, that is up to their discretion, although CDFA does turn to the county to determine if the applicant has local verification before issuing the annual or provisional. So long story short, it's up to the applicant. And as far as the other question with the definition in our ordinance about what an applicant looks like, I can't put my hands on it right now, but if Ms. Wignall could reach out to me directly, I can give her that actual language just to make sure it's the direct language. And I'm not giving her a paraphrasing.
And I know it's similar to what CDFA has as well.
Can I share real fast? I know for truth that they allow the landlord and applicant of the early activation permit to use the lease for the tenant to get the state license. I know for a fact. So even though she read that rule, that's how the state looks at it. And I called recently with the merger and asked if there was any updates, and they said there's no changes to that. The lease is applicable. So
And I would say reach out to CDD for a further conversation on that specific part.
okay. All right, thank you.
Much. Let's go ahead and go with the next public comment. Jake, let's make sure the Zoom room is open.
Okay, I have sent another unmute request out to the Zoom room floor. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name.
This is Sarah Bodner.
Yes, please.
Hi, good morning, Chair and members of the board. Thank you. I'm representing Canacraft today, and Canacraft has been operating Kindness Farms in Lakeport since last year under the Early Activation Program. We really appreciate the board's efforts on this agenda item and support all the amendments and in the resolution, and additionally all points raised in the LCCA letter. We have a couple recommendations we'd like to add to this conversation. First, we'd like to see the allowance of EA permits for the entire calendar year, not the 6-month cycle. Ag is dynamic, and the planting depends on many factors, including, but not limited to, the timing of your environmental compliance and the initial study. And the 6-month limitation just creates an artificial and unnecessary local barrier for applicants who might otherwise be in good standing with state licensure. We would love to see that addressed. Secondly, we'd like to see a path similar to what Crystal mentioned with her specific site, a path created for changes to your site plans so that applicants can prepare an initial study for the entire proposed project that you intend to plant, and not just what you've done with EA in the past. We think this could actually streamline the use permit application and ultimately save staff time and create more efficiency going forward. And finally, we would like to wholeheartedly encourage the timely creation of an ad hoc committee to revise the cannabis ordinance and bring it into alignment with state law to provide the clarity both for operators and staff so that we know what the cannabis program is going to look like in Lake County. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. Let's see who's next, Jake.
All right, I have another unmute request out there. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name.
Hello, Damian Ramirez. Firstly, thank you all for your hard work dedicated to this important agenda item. I'd like to voice my strong support for the SB 59 letter being drafted by the county. This action will be instrumental in maintaining the viability of this new industry within the county. As we all know, many cultivators are still very far out from receiving their official UPs. With all the attention currently given to the early activations, this seems to coincide quite nicely with that, so thank you. Speaking of the early activations, I have two comments in regards to that subject. I find that most of the language in the proposed resolution is great, and it really provides the clarity needed to the applicants. Thank you all who have been instrumental in creating this resolution. My first suggestion would be to extend early activation for the entire year, as Sarah just alluded to. That is the duration of the coinciding CDFA licensing. This change seems quite practical considering that fact. Second suggestion would be to remove section 2B identified in the EA resolution. I understand what Supervisor Sabatier was speaking on when it comes to that, but I feel that the standard of having the projects circulate through their CEQA process is an important change that will definitely give the county the information that's required to make a determination on each of the early activation applications and how it really affects the environment. With this newly proposed standard, it seems unnecessary to limit the early activation this year based on their previous year's early activation canopies. This minor change in the resolution would enable the county to increase its tax revenue from already compliant operators while they're not compromising their standards towards the environmental protections, which we all know is paramount here. Furthermore, this will help many cultivators in the community who were forced into smaller gardens last year through supply challenges brought on by COVID-19, many of which I know personally. These operators, were trying to make a challenging yet prudent decision. I don't feel they should be penalized for doing so. My last two comments are simply to support two separate items that have been previously discussed. First one being the idea of running concurrent permitting with the CDFA licensing process. This will provide more clarity for the applicants, also provide more concrete timelines for cultivators to get fully licensed and permitted by all the respective agencies. Lastly, I just want to convey my strong support of developing an ad hoc committee as soon as possible to revise the county ordinance to better mirror the CDFA regulations. When we were right out the gates, we had really strong ordinance. I'm super proud and happy to be involved in the formation of it, but things have changed a little bit on the state side. The decisions that can come out of this ad hoc committee could really lower the workload on the CDD. I think it's also providing this forum for discussion amongst the various county stakeholders should also bring more transparency towards the cannabis industry and how it interacts with these other industries in the county, especially the already well-developed traditional agriculture that takes place throughout. So thank you for your time. Thank you for all your hard work in regards to all of these matters.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and go to the next public comment.
All right, I have another unmute request out there for the Zoom room floor. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and say your first and last name. I do also have an individual in Zoom who mentioned they wanted to share a question but didn't have a microphone, and they relayed that question to me. If I would be permitted. All right.
Could you provide the name of the person who provided that to you?
Yes, the name of the individual is Bo Rama.
Okay.
And they have asked me to share. Will the county have measures in place to assist HOAs in the county that have rules against commercial cultivation?
I believe that HOAs are in the exclusion zone, but I can't speak to that 100%. I know that was discussed in the original inception of the ordinance on where those exclusions were. Community growth boundaries, public lands, and other such locations were added to the exclusion zones. I do not believe any HOAs are part of the inclusion zone. I don't think any of those are available. I will ask Director De Leon or Deputy Director Thomas to chime in to see if they have any further response to that.
I'm trying to look right now on our exclusion zone map. See Scott pop back on. Scott, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's going to boil down to zoning. Most of the subdivisions with HOAs are R1 zone, and so commercial cannabis is, I believe, going to be precluded because of the zoning. It's not to say that personal use is probably going to fall on the HOA to administer, but commercial cultivation, I think, is just by virtue of the zoning is not going to be allowed. Okay. But I'm saying that off the top of my head, and I'm frantically looking for the zoning uses here. So that's my initial reaction to that.
And I would suggest to the person who wrote that comment, if there is a concern or an issue, to contact CDD with the exact location of that issue, because it's kind of difficult to respond based on a general question. But I do agree with Director De Leon that those typically would be zoned for residential, and the county's ordinance covers those zones that allow agriculture, which are not residential zones, unless it's a rural residential, which is not within our community growth boundaries. Please go ahead and do that so you can get a better response to the specific location that you're looking at. Let's go, Jake, and again, check in with the Zoom room and see if there's any further public comment.
All right, I have sent another unmute request. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name. A reminder to the individuals joining us via phone, you could raise your hand by dialing *9.
Okay, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and read the letter that we received from the Lake County Cannabis Alliance. So it was written on March 13th, 2021. Dear Honorable Supervisors, the Lake County Cannabis Alliance would like to acknowledge the continuous effort by the board and county staff to create a sustainable cannabis industry in Lake County. Of late, the extensive work on the early activation amendment is especially appreciated considering the seasonal nature of our crop. The Lake County Cannabis Alliance supports the proposed amendments to early activation. The amendment will allow for existing early activation projects to continue operating until a use permit hearing, thus allowing continuity of cultivation and state licensing. Both factors are essential for a sustainable and increasing industry. In addition, a clear path is defined for qualified new applicants to begin operations within guidelines. We ask that additional consideration to be given for a local process which allows for a concurrent application process with the state. We ask that the same early activation amendments for all other commercial cannabis license types. Additionally, we ask for the removal of Section 2B outlined in the resolution with all early activation permits now subject to a completed initial study. Expansion could be allowed provided that the initial study covers the entire proposed project. Since the proposed use permit's entire canopy space is covered in the initial study paperwork, then we feel the applicant should have the ability to apply for an early activation permit up to the canopy amount that is covered within this UP application. This minor change will enable the County of Lake to increase its tax revenue from already compliant operators while not compromising its standards towards environmental protections. We are fully in support of the development of an ad hoc committee that will review and revise the cannabis cultivation ordinance. Lake County was fortunate to have an early adopted ordinance. However, now that the state of California has regulations, it would be advisable to align with those which will take some administrative burden off the county. Finally, we are encouraged by the county's proposed support of SB 59. We respectfully urge the Board of Supervisors to sign on to a letter of support for this critical state legislation that would extend the provisional deadline to January 1st, 2028 and allow more time for local operators to obtain use permits and annual licenses. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Jennifer K. Smith, President of the Lake County Cannabis Alliance. Okay, so that concludes our public comments. Let's bring it back to the board. I do want to discuss some of the items that were mentioned. A couple of folks requested that 2B be changed. While I would agree with them on a personal level, when I look at the big picture, I think that the changes to a early activation does create some extra legwork for our staff to have to go through in order to approve them, which takes their focus away from the use permit. And again, the idea is early activation is not meant to be this continuous process that we unfortunately happen to be in. And I'm hoping that within a year's time that we can have a more efficient way of going through these processes because of some of the steps that we're currently taking with CDD. Whether that's through consultants or whether that's through reviewing the ordinance itself, things like that. So I just want to make sure and bring that up since that was discussed by a few individuals and looking to see how the board feels about item 2B, which states that no changes to your early activation if you're looking to get another one. Supervisor Pyska?
I agree that we need to keep this. We have such a backlog of open permits, and the priority is to move through these open applications as efficiently as possible. And I feel that this is something that we just have to hold firm on.
And I do want to make sure that words matter. And within the resolution, I said that you can only request. That doesn't mean that staff can't offer if staff feels comfortable. Hey, your planning commission, we're done with everything. Your planning commission is in a month, but we can't get to you right now and you need to plant. Maybe staff would be comfortable, and I want to leave that discretion to staff. But as a applicant, you could only request what you already had. And I think that discretion allows staff to maneuver through their big picture of how much they're dealing with and what they can handle versus allowing the applicant the possibility to change their plan.
Does that comment open up staff to getting questioned about this a lot and getting a request for expansions when it's in this resolution that it's not going to be?
I would say requests are not allowed and that it can only come from staff, period. And please weigh in CDD, because maybe we need to change the wording, but again, it says that the applicant cannot request. Deputy Director Thomas.
Thank you for that, Supervisor, Chair Sabatier. I think, as you said, that we're just clarifying the process. And ultimately, the ordinance still has to be responsive to the CEQA guidelines, which is the Public Resource Code. And, there might be some things as we keep digging into CEQA or as we dig into the processing of the permit. It's not that we're trying to oppose the project or slow it down. We still have to be responsive of CEQA. We can say things in the ordinance and we can put it in there, but at the end of the day, we still have to be responsive to CEQA. So then to segue into the other comment, discussion thread that we just had, it does take a lot of time when we have multiple requests of an applicant to say, well, I did X, Y, Z, and now I want to do A, B, C, or where's my status update, or I demand a permit, an EA permit. So trying to have some of this language to shore that up is helpful. But ultimately, just staff being responsive to the request and providing status updates goes a long way as well. Was that helpful?
And basically, you've always had discretion through early activation. This still allows you discretion, just restricts what the applicant can request at this moment in time. And I know it's not a happy thing from the applicant perspective, but I'm trying to balance this between the applicant's needs and the staff's needs, and I need to respect the staff's needs to be able to have time on their hands to follow through to get those use permits done. So
that's correct. That is correct. And it's so as you outline it here, as you kind of go through those conditions, I'm assuming the intention is, we're putting it back on the applicant. You think about what your request is. How does that line up against the ordinance that we've outlined? And then you make that decision to make that request. Like, does it check these boxes? And if it checks all these boxes, it'll help with the opportunity of getting that EA permit request reviewed and then moving from there. But then it's the other side of that. If it doesn't check those boxes, we can immediately say it doesn't check these boxes. Maybe you need to revise a little bit.
Right. Does that help, Supervisor Pyska? Is that okay? And then there was a request by multiple folks about extending early activation to an entire year. I think that's just a whole different conversation. I'm putting our county counsel, Ms. Grant, through my brain here, and she would tell me that you can't make law with a resolution. And this would absolutely change the law of 27.4, which states that any early activation, not just for cannabis, is for 6 months. And if we were to review that to match CDFA or to be the calendar year or any other change from 6 months, it would have to be through an ordinance change and not through a resolution. So that would definitely be a completely different conversation. And I think those are the main issues that I saw on there. We talked about early activation and state licensing. I will just put out there that we did have some people who did not obtain their state licensing last year with early activation. And some of those people, we contacted CDFA and worked with our code enforcement, and we shut them down. So that is not something that is acceptable here in this county, and that is something that we will continue to not accept. We want to make sure that everybody is following the rules that have been put into place by the state and also by the county. It's important for us that we follow those rules. And I think that's pretty much it. If there's any further comment from the board or questions, or if we want to take action since we closed down public comment.
Mr. Chair, I'll offer the resolution.
Okay, the resolution has been offered. Sorry, slipping. Johanna, roll call, please.
Okay, Supervisor Simon,
Aye.
Supervisor Crandall,
Yes.
Supervisor Scott,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
And then we'll move on to item B, new ad hoc committee to review, revise, and revamp the cannabis cultivation ordinance. So I will make a quick statement on this. I don't think there's anybody that doesn't think, well, there's a lot of people that wants to see a revision because of the fact that things have changed at the state level. We have not necessarily changed everything. There's been a lot of learning that's happened over the course of the last 2.5, 3 years. Obviously some changes would help with some efficiencies. However, we do have efficiency issues already to begin with that this would only burden by doing a revision. So I do want to see this be done, but the timing of it needs to be appropriate. I maybe moved a little too quick on the idea of creating the committee, as the committee probably would not be able to meet until later in the season or close to the end of the season, as CDD is typically very heavily involved with cannabis applications throughout the entire season. And to ask them to take time out to be able to be a part of a process that will build efficiencies potentially next year, I think we need to time it right so that we're not asking too much all at once. And so I will either do one of two things, and it's up to the board. I think either A, we move forward and create the committee and don't get started until that time arrives, which would be approximately maybe late September, October, or just push this item further down and bring it back up at the right occasion to where the meetings can start somewhat concurrently soon after that. So opening up the discussion to the board, and I apologize to staff for misunderstanding and not seeing the potential burden that this could create. Supervisor Pyska?
I'm happy to hear you say this. I don't think that this is the right time to do this. I think we should wait to form the ad hoc committee when we're ready to on this work. This work deserves everybody's full attention and time and energy to do it well. And so I agree that pushing this out to, until there's some more resources available is the better way to proceed. So I think just wait on the ad hoc committee, as a lot can change in the coming months, and let's take it up when we're ready to deal with it.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Supervisor Scott?
I definitely agree with that. I agree with forming a committee, but I don't think this is the right time. And I think we should bring it back August, September, whenever it is appropriate for staff.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Any other comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I actually put together some questions just to, because for me, I don't know. I know that one thing is they're overwhelmed in that department. And so I think from now until then, we can line out what the workload may look like, how many meetings, how often. Because I do agree with you, and I'm glad that we came to this determination. I know that they're backed up in that department, and putting another workload on them I don't want to sink them. And so if we can get some things lined up to help them alleviate that burden, but also get these other. So if we decide to vote to have the committee, and we don't meet until September, October timeframe, I'd like to line out these questions. But if not, at least have these questions in mind so that way we can ensure that we're on point when it starts, hit the ground running, if you will. I just wanted to highlight those.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I agree with the intent is, yes, it needs to be done, but the timing, I would agree with at the end of the season. I would suggest too, through some of the board members, I know myself and Tina sat through when we first got on the board, some of the workshops, the way that we did implementing this. I thought that was a good idea. Maybe that's something we look at to do at the end of this season with our cannabis season this year, and we look at setting up some workshops throughout the winter. What I liked about that, instead of an ad hoc committee, it was the entire board, the industry, ag, we all got to really set through and work through this. Obviously, there is more work to be done, but not as much as the heavy lifting when we created the ordinance. So I think that might be an opportunity to look at that this winter after the season where we can really start to revamp it and be prepared for the 2022 cannabis season here in Lake County. So I appreciate, Mr. Chair, you realizing, just the extra workload that we put on community development. I think focusing on the use permits is the way to go. And so thank you very much for making that suggestion. But I would be in complete favor of getting this done at the end of the season and creating, whether it's an ad hoc committee, but I really suggest looking back at that framework we had on the evening workshops when we created the ordinance, because I think we had an overall six workshop evening that we went through on the board, and we're able to create the ordinance out of that. So I think that's a good suggestion also, maybe down the road.
Thank you for your comments. I will say that the atmosphere in which we would be recreating or revising the ordinance is vastly different than the atmosphere that you were in back in 2018 before approving the original ordinance. I think there's a little bit more experience that people have had to at least alleviate some of the concerns that a lot of people had about bringing commercial cannabis cultivation to our county. And so it's been a learning process for every single one of us. I miscalculated, and I was hoping to create efficiencies to help with the backlog, but obviously there would potentially be an extra burden to the backlog before efficiencies were created. And so I apologize for my miscalculation on that. But I think that the conversation will be a much quicker conversation. And in fact, I would like the discussion to be more in line with efficiencies rather than changing specific rules. I don't think there's so many different applications that are in the hopper right now that changing more rules makes it that much more difficult. So I'm looking to present an ordinance that will provide efficiencies more than specific change. So, but again, that's going to be up to us. And I'm going to open it up to the public, and then we can go ahead and either say, come back with this agenda item later or create the committee. And it looks like we're going to come back with a future agenda item. So let's go ahead and Jake, open up the Zoom room and see if we have any public comment. Oh, yeah, let's just redo public comment just on this specific one.
All right, I've sent an unmute request out to the Zoom room floor. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name. Reminder to the individuals joining us via phone, you can raise your hand by dialing *9.
Joseph Gustafson.
Yes. Joseph?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. What's your comment?
Oh, I was just, my comment was I have two projects that I did that where I turned in everything to the state, tried to get everything I could get to get tags. I'm doing it now. I'm waiting on one that I have a use permit that's approved on. Cannot have for the life of me get any way to get anywhere further with it. Their last email was to me was they're waiting because there was a bad culvert on the property that was from Fish and Wildlife. So they won't do anything until they come out and they're back.
And Joseph, I'm going to interrupt you real quick. The item we're discussing is the creation of an ad hoc committee. If you have a specific project issue, either contact your supervisor to discuss it or contact CDD. But right now we're staying focused on the creation of the ad hoc committee.
Sorry about that. I thought I just finally plugged in for the early thing.
No, we've already passed that. Sorry.
Okay, I got to fix my computer. Thank you.
Jake, let's see if we have another public comment on item B of our agenda item. Looks like we have a hand up for Sarah Bodner.
Yes, thank you. On this topic, I appreciate the awareness of the board around staff's time and limitations. But one of the things I want to raise around revising the ordinance is that it could actually help alleviate some of the pressure on staff and on the planning commission if changes are discussed that would help streamline applications and perhaps move some applications from a major use permit to a minor use permit where it's not seen as necessary or required to go through such a rigorous process. And that could actually help alleviate the load this summer. So I think there is merit to forming the ad hoc sooner to look at these issues and look at where the pain points are in the staff's current process as well as the ordinance. And perhaps it could be considered to utilize outside consultants or outside counsel to support the board in this process so that it all doesn't fall upon an already overburdened county staff, but can move us forward towards some more enduring solutions for Lake County. Because as you know, farmers and businesses are planning their businesses for next year now. And having the ordinance consistently not be clear, or knowing that changes are going to come, but not knowing what they are, leaves the industry in a really precarious place to plan for the future.
Thank you very much for your comment. Any other public comment on the committee?
Sent another unmute request out to the Zoom room floor.
Thank you, Jake.
This is Jennifer Smith. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I just wanted to chime in on this item of the ad hoc committee. I am a huge fan of creating an ad hoc committee for this and streamlining what we have, aligning with the state where we can. I think it dovetails into what was already decided 2 weeks ago with a programmatic EIR. And while I appreciate staff's time, I do feel like the committee could maybe be formed now with the bulk of the work to be done later. But I think it would be essential to have this work done prior to the completion of that programmatic EIR so that, as the previous speaker mentioned, we could be ready to go and start planning for 2021 and hit the ground running. So if there could be just to look at, I think the EIR is probably going to take about 9 months. And then obviously it'll need to go out for comment period. But if we can have this work maybe handled, just outside consultants could maybe start, or other ad hoc members that aren't county staff could start with some ideas at least sooner rather than later, with the bulk of the county work being done in the fall, so that it all lines up for implementation early 2021 in a perfect scenario. Just some thoughts on that with a complete understanding of the backlog that's happening. And right now we definitely need to get those EAs that are in the pipeline processed and those use permits through. So I do take that into consideration, but there is some work that can be done outside of county right now.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay, hearing none, bring it back to the board. And I'm assuming that there's consensus to go ahead and bring this back at a more approximate time of when the committee or workshops can begin. Is that the consensus of the board at this moment in time? I see 2 nods. And
yes.
3. Okay, so that's consensus. So we'll come back at a later time when there's approval for the time being available. And thank you for all the public comments as well on this item. So that leaves us with item 6.8, our 11:30 a.m. item, consideration of continuation of public hearing regarding the intent to vacate a roadway known as Arabian Lane, CR number 148D, in the Hidden Valley Lake area to March 23rd, 2021 at 9:45 a.m. Any comments on continuing the public hearing to that date? Okay, seeing none, I'm gonna go ahead and open that up to the public. Again, we're not discussing the item itself. We're only discussing the moving of the public hearing to that date. I see Director De Leon, actually, if we can pause the public comment. Any comments from Director De Leon?
No, other than thank you to the board, and I apologize for the oversight in the notification, but I do appreciate your consideration to move it to next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and Jake, let's make sure to open up public comment. See if there's any comments. Again, only on the moving of the public hearing to March 23rd at 9:45 a.m. and not the actual item itself.
All right, I have sent an unmute request out to the Zoom room floor. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name.
Okay, bring it back to the board. No action required, or do we need to take action on this?
Mr. Chair, you do need to take action by motion to just continue the hearing to March 23, 2021 at 9:45 a.m.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ms. Graham.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion to move the hearing to March 23rd at 9:45 a.m.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Johanna, roll call, please.
Okay, Supervisor Simon,
Aye.
Supervisor Crandall.
Aye.
Supervisor Scott,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that we're done with our timed items. Let's go ahead and start again on item 7, non-timed items. Let's start with 7.2, consideration of $26,000 funding allocation to the Lake County Community Risk Reduction Authority.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'll be starting out and presenting this item in the memo that was provided. But today we come to you from the Risk Reduction Authority as a request for funding. As you know, the Risk Reduction Authority was created in 2018 to look at all risks throughout Lake County, which not only involve fire, earthquake, and any other risks that may be involved here in Lake County. We started out, like we said, in 2018. The board and the JPA was amended in 2019, which at that point we brought on board all of our fire districts throughout the county, and we've been continuously meeting and looking to grow the Risk Reduction Authority here in Lake County. It is a community collaborative event with all of our partners and stakeholders, and we've really kind of come to a growth point, and that's why we're here today for consideration of a $26,000 kind of seed investment to help us move forward. In the time frame that we've been working as the Risk Reduction Authority, we have gone out and looked at small grants. We've got a $5,000 grant from North Bay, Rebuild North Bay. We also got a $25,000 grant from one of our local stakeholders, Calpine, gave us a grant this year. So I think right now at this time we have about $26,000 in our current budget. But today we come to you to look at the growth and the expansion of the Risk Reduction Authority and support from the board. I know that Supervisor Crandall sat on the board with me since he's been on, and I know we just had a change with Jessica Pyska coming on, I am the chair and she is the vice chair of the Risk Reduction Authority, and we're looking to grow here in 2021. We're looking to expand the JPA to 7 members. That would include 2 cities, Lakeport and Clear Lake. We are also looking to set up a seat for the tribal nations in the county, which would add another seat, and then looking at also including potential down the road proposals that will come to the board of one of our other government agencies, potential on some water districts here locally, because they are affected both by fire, risk, and other things as we move forward in Lake County. As we move into 2021, we're looking to do an RFP to get out to secure a RRA, Risk Reduction Authority coordinator under contract. This would be someone that could come in, really help us move it as somewhat of an executive director for coordination of implementing and facilitating all meetings, correspondence, but also working with county agencies and all the other agencies that are interested in participating in the Risk Reduction Authority. We plan on looking to become a grant-funded program as we move through the growth. I know today we are here looking for some initial seed funds, but the ultimate plan is to be completely sustained by grant funding in the future as we move forward in this growth process. There are some real critical proponents of things that need to be done this month or this year. We are looking to do a CMAT, a Community Mitigation Assessment Team, be brought to Lake County this year. It got put on hold last year. We were put together to get that done, but obviously the pandemic really put a hold on that. And that would allow us to really streamline everybody's efforts in one direction under the Risk Reduction Authority and help support all the other agencies that are working in collaboration for fuels reduction, other programs and things that are done in the county. But like I said, again, to mitigate all risks, flood, earthquake, fire, and any other things that we haven't thought of or experienced yet. So, in support of moving forward with this, there's also the Community Wildfire Protection or Prevention Program that was put together back in 2007 to 2009. I think it was completed. Needed to be updated every 5 years. We're working with one of our partners, RCD, who attends the meetings to get that plan updated. And that is the Community Wildfire Protection Program or Prevention Program for Lake County. That is our roadmap to projects, but also funding for those projects as we move forward here in Lake County to reduce our risk in reduction of fire mitigation and help us just protect our communities. We also have Clear Lake Environmental Research Center as part of the program, who's done a great job of bringing in funds in collaboration with the Risk Reduction Authority, and also all the Firewise communities around the lake, and the creation of new ones, fire break maintenance, broom buster project programs, grazing programs, Lake County Prescribed Burn Association, which is a newly formed organization, but really a hub for information, education, and the growth of our Risk Reduction Authority here in Lake County. In the memo, obviously, we put together as much information as possible, but today we really are looking for the board support in a $26,000, influx of seed money to the program. It is a request. It will be coming from cannabis tax dollars, but we look like this being a good investment. We will, as we open up the seats and create more members, be looking for contributions from each one of the board members. It will not just be set alone of being set on a board and the county bearing all of the responsibility. This is a community collaboration amongst all participants, and will continue to move along that effect as we bring some of the changes to the board, which you guys will all have input on, and the community will, as we grow this organization here locally. And so that kind of sets the tone for the discussion today. I want to thank you for your time, but I'd like to also turn it over to my vice chair, Jessica Paisa, to cover anything that I had missed out on or go into more detail.
Thank you, Supervisor Simon. You hit on just about everything. I've been attending the risk reduction meetings for 2 years before becoming the vice chair. So I've been watching the work evolve over the years with both Supervisors Crandall and Simon. And what we came to realize is that we need to build capacity into this organization. And through that, we can achieve and start to implement some of the goals that we've set over the past couple of years. So hiring a director or coordinator is really the first part of that, to do the outreach with all the other organizations and agencies in our county and outside of our county, and to really set up the structure and the strategy so that we can go after the potential $1 billion that could be available for fire mitigation in the next year. And last week you heard from Clerk, and you've seen the huge strides that they've made collaborating with the risk reduction. And that really is just the beginning, but we really can't move forward without the capacity built into the organization. Supervisor Simon mentioned the CMAT, and I'm not sure if everybody understands what that is. It's the Community Mitigation Assistance Team. It's run by a nonprofit that works with the National Forest Service. And on their website, it says, what does a CMAT do? A Community Mitigation Assistance Team is a national interagency resource designed to help communities build sustainable local capacity for community wildfire mitigation during high-risk times, before, during, and after a wildfire when awareness for risk reduction and the likelihood of action is highest. So this would be funded through our partners at the National Forest. It's a 2-week program where the team would come. They'll likely come virtually to our county, but this is it costs about $50,000 to have this assessment done, and we would not bear the cost. The partners with the National Forest would help us with that. So that is a huge opportunity for us. It's something that we have been juggling as board members, and we had Michelle Scully helping us with that when she was working for the admin office. But this is just one example of how we need a coordinator managing these processes so that we don't lose any more opportunities. This is not a lost opportunity for us. It was put on hold last spring because of COVID. And then they were supposed to come in September, but I think we all remember the fires that were happening then. It was not going to happen at that time. So one of the opportunities that we really need to build our capacity to move forward and through the CMAT, we're going to analyze all of our organizations and agencies and silos and build a hierarchy so that we have a strategy going forward. Supervisor Simon also mentioned our CWPP. We've just spent a lot of resources getting that updated. We cannot let it sit on the shelf again like it did 10 years ago. So, these are just two of the priorities that we're focusing right now. So this $26,000 is going to go a long way in moving us forward, and then getting the seed money from the other partners will help just build the sustainability for the years to come.
Thank you both, supervisors.
I would like to make one more comment with the CMAT. We've really, like I said, I know it was put off last year, but this is the first time, as far as we know, that this will be done in any county in California. We were the first ones. It was, obviously, we talked about what we would like to do. I know Supervisor Crandall was involved in a lot of these early on conversations. We really had to explain where we were going. But really, what sets us apart of anything is this community collaboration that's happening in Lake County. All the organizations, whether volunteer, government, are working in the direction of making us a Firewise county, not just communities and other things, to really move towards that. I know we've got a lot of work to do, but this will hopefully help. Our request today will help us put boots on the ground and projects to be done. I know that we have scheduled as a risk reduction authority. We're looking to have some of our community outreach start happening this year, really spearheaded by Jessica as she's come on board. In April, we're going to be making some announcements where we do some community, a community event, and then looking at those going forward to be kind of biannually or quarterly events. But we're going to start with one in April, and we'll get those announcements out and really educating our entire county on all the things that are going on, including, our vegetation abatement ordinance, all those types of things that are available here in Lake County for resources, but also, projects that will be coming out and projects that are currently happening by all the organizations throughout the county. So just wanted to fill that in a little bit more. And one other thing, I wanted to give thanks to staff. When we say the county is investment, I know Michelle Scully, the admin office, Carolyn, all the folks who have worked or attended the meetings to take the minutes to do these things. We have invested. Now we're looking to expand where all partners will be, where we're all getting some skin in the game here to really help move risk reduction forward throughout the county in all government agencies, tribal lands, and also federal partners.
Thank you.
Okay.
I was waiting just in case there was another final.
Yeah, I know. I could go. That's all right.
All right. Thank you both for the presentation and all the information. Are there any questions or comments from board members on this item? Supervisor Scott.
Definitely a big believer in collaboration, and I definitely think this authority has taken the lead on this. I'm excited to hear that you're looking at inviting tribal members and also cities to be a part of this. I definitely think this is what we have put this money aside for our cannabis funds to be able to use this. So I definitely agree that we should be funding this authority, $26,000 to be able to have seed money to move forward because it's going to definitely help our entire community become not only fire safe, but looking at all the other risks that we have here.
Supervisor Crandall?
Yeah, so I was honored serving on the Lake County Risk Reduction Authority in the beginning stages of it. But I just wanted to highlight how important this is, and just giving a prime example. Michelle Scully was on the committee helping us prior to this, and what usually happens is, like, for example, 4.2 today. Of course, we can depend on county staff to do this type of work, but there may be other extensive things that we collaborate in different meetings outside of just Lake County. I know Moke's also on the state. He was appointed by the state for the fire safety, and then other supervisors are involved with things. And so when we collaborate, we can't directly collaborate with one another unless it's just one person. And so having a staff member in place so we could send this news, this information to, so they can prepare it for their meetings. And that way we avoid this a lot of people forget that we have this Brown Act red tape. Sometimes we have to go around and ensure that we don't violate it. Because there are people out there, believe it or not, that want to catch us in those little hiccups. So I think not only is it a good thing to have this, it's also a start to a staff member, I hope. And that's what I seen when we initially looked at the cannabis funds, seeing that the RRA on that line item. I was like, I think that's hopefully where we're going to go with it, and it looks like we're here. And so again, I am in support as well. So.
Well, and just to clarify, it's a contractor that the Risk Reduction Authority would hire, and the Risk Reduction Authority is not actually a county agency. It's a JPA, and there happen to be two seats that County Board of Supervisors hold, but it's not a county committee, and that's why it's we have been able to use county staff to keep it going as long as we have, but we have to recognize that it doesn't live in the county. And we have to have its own staff and its own capacity to move forward.
So, thank you very much. I have a quick question. Is it $26,000 solely for hiring a contractor, or is it also for doing some of the programs? Because on the memo, it's not very clear. It says that $26,000 in funds requested could be made available through the cannabis tax policy adopted by our board under the category. Oh, sorry, I'm reading the wrong thing. Seeks an allocation of $26,000 from the county to help provide initial funding for these services. And above, there's a lot of different services that the RRA is committed to providing and working on. And so is it $26,000 to hire somebody to get those services moving and finding progress, or is it specifically for those services, or a mixture?
It is, as you say, that what we're looking to do, obviously, it's one of the priorities for this year. Those funds will be used in collaboration with the funds that we have brought on board by other stakeholders to get the contractor in place this year. That's one of the priorities. It's one of the capacity building. And then ultimately what we'll be doing is, obviously, with the other contributions, as the other seats will be opened up, that will come back to the board as we expand. We will be looking for contributions also from any partners they're going to set on fill in those new added seats, the 4 that we've done. So at this point, it will be going towards the contractor this year. Yes.
Okay.
But the contractor will be holding events and organizing services for the community. So it starts with hiring the contractor, and as more funds come in and we expand that capacity, then we'll be doing a lot more of the outreach.
Okay. I think that I'm perfectly fine. I know we need to find ways to use our cannabis taxes. I think this is a tremendous way to use our cannabis taxes, since one of the 4 main reasons people voted for our cannabis taxes was for environmental protection. This is exactly fits that category to a T, in my opinion. What I would like to see, and I don't know if the RRA is working towards this, but if we're going to be providing funding to the RRA, I want some evidence and I want some reporting of how that money was spent. Is the RRA looking at creating a budget so that we can be aware of how those funds are being utilized, especially as we continue to expand.
So one of the requirements for our contractor is to give quarterly reports to this board. And so a budget will be a part of that.
Okay, because I'm very comfortable with saying no more than 26,000. Here you go for the purpose of what RRA is built for. But if we can get a budget eventually to understand more so how it was used, and then if there's any further requests on how it will be used, that would put me a bit more at ease. But I think it's going to go to a good cause, and it's going to go. It's required to help the RRA move forward in the plans that it has, or else it's going to take a significant amount of time to continue as is. So just wanted to check in on that. Okay, if there's no further comments from anyone else, then let's go ahead, Jake, and open it up in the Zoom room.
It looks like Carol, Carol, CAOs.
Yeah, CAO
If I could, I just wanted to add to the discussion that the RRA presently has a request for qualifications out to secure the services of the contractor. And one of the requirements, as Supervisor Pyska pointed out, is regular reporting. And so we, hopefully will secure the services of a consultant that can handle all those details. That's really the intention. And so that RFQ was just released last Friday and has a response date of the 30th of this month.
Okay, thank you. Makes this item that much more important for you guys, since that's where the money would probably come from in order to pay for that contractor. Okay, if that's our last comment from the board, let's go ahead, Jake, and open up the Zoom room for public comment.
All right. I have sent an unmute request out to the Zoom room floor. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name. Individuals who have joined us via phone, you can use *9 to raise your hand.
Okay, and with no public comment, let's bring it back to the board for the consideration of 26,000.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to approve the $26,000 funding allocation for the Lake County Community Risk Reduction Authority.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Johanna, if we can please have a roll call.
Okay, Supervisor Simon,
Yes.
Supervisor Crandall,
Yes.
Supervisor Scott,
Yes.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So if anybody here is listening, we're looking for that contractor. The RFQ is out, and we need a special somebody to help us step into this new era and lead this new group. So please respond.
Shameless plug. Okay, we will be moving on to item 7.4. Consideration of resolution authorizing the Public Works Director to sign the notice of completion for the Lamson Field Airport Runway 10-28 Asphalt Slurry Seal Rehabilitation Project, AIP number 3-06-0117-019-2018, bid number 19-11. Director De Leon.
Thank you very much. One of the things we're trying to do a little more of when we do notices of completion is to make a short presentation to your board. One of the things that I don't think government does a very good job of is sharing the accomplishments that we do. And certainly the completion of this project is a milestone. It was a nearly $1 million project. It took a number of years to finally come to fruition. It had to be delayed due to fires and other reasons. So it's certainly an accomplishment that we're proud of here with DPW. And And I'm mindful of the time, and I'm hoping to just share a quick PowerPoint that I'm hoping Jake will allow me to share my screen, and I will endeavor to do this. So bear with me. Okay. Share my
Jake, I think
screen.
Director De Leon's on the approved list for sharing his screen, so we're good.
Yes, he is set up for it.
Nice.
There we go. Presuming that you all can see that.
Yes.
We didn't have a lot of photos from prior to construction, so I'll just try to walk you through this one a little bit. This is of a picture of the taxiway, and you can see where we have cracks in the taxiway and the previous crack sealing efforts that were made. These are sizable fissures, if you will, and shrinkage cracks in the pavement. You can see we have some weeds growing out of one of the cracks. We got a lot of complaints about the condition of this. It's difficult for the planes. It creates, especially if you have a what's called a tail dragger plane with a small wheel on the out near the tail. They can get caught in this rut here, this longitudinal rut. And of course, the transverse cracks create a lot of problems. Hopefully I can, there we go. So this is a picture of the same taxiway. The project involved going in and repairing those cracks, and then placing a sealant over the top of the pavement. This was not a repaving project. This was a pavement preservation project. And you can see the substantial difference in the pavement quality there on the taxiway, and a couple of additional photos. One of the other things that we were able to do is upgrade all of the pavement markings. And so you can see some of the evidence of the new pavement markings and the slurry seal that was placed, and fixed all of the cracks and everything that were within the taxiway and the runway area. Again, that's the end of my presentation. A great project. Again, appreciate the patience of all of the users of the airport. They were very frustrated with how long this took. We had to delay it because of fires, and there was 2017 or 18, I've lost track. We had the airport closed for several weeks while CAL FIRE used it as a base for their air attack. And the airport and all of the users were within the closed area. And so there was no access to the airport. There was no use of the airport. And we were scheduled to do this project during that summer, and we chose to delay it another year because of the closure of the airport during the summer. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Just a brief update. We're working on the next phase, and so you'll be seeing that here in the next couple of years. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. We are recommending that you approve the resolution authorizing the Public Works Director to sign the notice of completion for the project.
Thank you very much, Director De Leon. Love the presentation. Great job. Also, if you don't mind my mentioning Celia Hoberg.
Well, I was going to get to that. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And go ahead. You're welcome to. Thank you.
Her enthusiasm for fixing our airport and going through all the legwork of the FAA guidelines and regulations and how we can accumulate the funds we need to be able to do these things. No easy feat. And as you said, years in the making. So patience is absolutely a virtue on this one.
Yeah, thank you. Celia has been a tremendous addition to our organization. Her work as the right-of-way agent, in addition to the airport operations manager, is outstanding, and this is another example of the great work that she's doing. I'd also like to mention Steve Phillips, who is our construction engineer, and Steve helped quite a bit with all the final paperwork, the change orders and pay estimates and whatnot, and notice of completion. So a great team effort from the staff, and yes, Celia and her enthusiasm is very much appreciated, and you're seeing great things happen out at the airport, stuff that we haven't been able to accomplish in dare I say decades, and we're seeing some great stuff out there. So thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the board? Supervisor Scott.
Yes, I know for the county and I know for this board, we've been really trying to change first impressions of people coming into our community. And I think this runway change definitely does that. The impression that they have when they first land here is, wow, what an amazing runway. And not only that, when they get off their airplane, we now have a pilot's lounge. So we have just really come a long way. And I really appreciate, Scott, your work and your team's work to change the first impression of people visiting Lake County.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any other comments or questions from the board? Supervisor Pyska?
Well done. That is a beautiful runway, and it's a beautiful way to welcome people into our county. So well done for all of your team.
Supervisor Simon?
Yeah, I'd just like to obviously thank Scott and all of his staff working through and getting this project. When myself and Supervisor Scott came on, we were looking at long-term goals, obviously, and we set our 2028 goals over the next 10 years to really help us move forward. This was one of the main projects, and I just really appreciate East Department and your department, Scott, on this project, really, as Tina said, just enhancing the overall experience you get when you're coming into the airport here with both the lounge and the redoing of that. So long-term priorities, that's something we always like to see our directors doing. So I just want to thank you for that. And we'll continue on that on all the other priorities we put on our 2028 economic development opportunities here in Lake County. So thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Crandall?
Yes, so I remember, Scott, when we went through our orientation, myself and Bruno, this is one of the things we talked about when we walked the airfield. There's a couple other things, but this is big, so knocking stuff off the list is always good.
And I believe we also got rid of some airplanes that were kind of stuck at the airport as well. So there's been a major cleanup happening there. And I'm sure, as Director DeLeon alluded to, it's not done quite yet. There's still more to come. But as I said earlier, it takes time to go through the process, especially since it's such an expensive endeavor. Getting those grants, you have to check a lot of boxes before you can get approved. So looking forward to more. Thank you very much. And so looking for, let's do public comment on this. Let's open it up to the Zoom room. Jake, please.
All right, I've sent an unmute request out to the Zoom room floor. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name.
All right, let's go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the board for action. And this is a resolution.
Mr. Chair, I would offer the resolution.
Okay, resolution has been offered. Johanna, roll call, please.
Okay, Supervisor Simon,
Aye.
Supervisor Crandall,
Yes.
Supervisor Scott,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Director DeLeon.
Thank you very much, board.
Okay, So I believe those are all our items except for weekly calendars. So let's go ahead and get started on that, 7.1. And let's start with Supervisor Simon.
Yeah, finishing up today's meeting, and then I'll be reaching out to a consultant I need to get a hold of today after this. Tomorrow, I do have a conflict tomorrow, Chair, with the LAFCO. I'm going to be late to the meeting. I have also a department head meeting. And so I plan on attending the department head meeting from 9:30 to 10:30. And then I'll be joining the LAFCO meeting as soon as that meeting gets over. You can let me know if that affects any quorum, but I think you guys should be okay. But I really think as we move through things, the department head meeting, I need to attend that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I'll be joining the LAFCO meeting later on that day. On Thursday, right now, I don't have anything on the calendar, but I'll be working with constituents. Obviously, as you guys know, issues are always coming in and returning phone calls there. On Thursday, have our Workforce Governing Board meeting. On Thursday, it'll be by Zoom. And that is in the morning. I'll be taking care of those issues. And then ultimately being back here on Monday, and I will be working with Supervisor Crandall to attend the 1 o'clock hearing, on Monday, and then back here on Tuesday, the 23rd, for the meeting.
Thank you very much, Supervisor. Let's go on to Supervisor Crandall.
So, am I on? Yep, I'm on. Okay. So, tomorrow I have the North Shore Business Association in the morning. I have a call with the consultant at 11. I think it's regarding something about public health. Worth Committee meeting in the evening. And let's see, Thursday, I have a meeting in Clear Lake Oaks with the constituent. Friday, I have a CSAC class from 9 to 12. And then the LATH in the evening. Of course, Monday, I have, I think we have something called Plan Board Workshop. I'm not sure if that's still going on, or I think we're planning for the workshop or something like that. But, and then of course at 1, I would like to try to attend that Board of Forestry with Supervisor Simon, so we can get that. So we got that letter, so now we can be a part of that and give some comments when they move forward. And then of course back here next Tuesday for the Board of Supervisors meeting.
Supervisor Scott?
Yes, tomorrow at 8 o'clock, we are continuing our interviews for the Hope Rising Executive Director. And then I have a special department head meeting at 9:30. I have quite a few doodle polls out, just waiting for those meetings to hit my calendar for tomorrow. So I'm sure that will fill up. On Thursday, I have a COC Executive Committee meeting, and then the Law Library meeting at noon. And then I will be taking a tour at 1 o'clock of the Adobe Creek packing facility, and then attending at 3 o'clock the Behavioral Health Mental Health Board. On Friday, I will be attending at 10:30 the public, or actually it's a phone call talking about the public health recruitment. And then at 12:30, I will be attending a scaling up of staff centering on racial equality. And Monday, just preparing for the meeting on Tuesday.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Pyska.
So before I get to my calendar, I just wanted to show a quick slideshow about a little report out from what we've been doing over the past couple weekends with the Cabaret Council. So Jake's going to put this up. So we've had the last 2 Saturdays have been community work days where people identified dangerous areas in the community and neighbors came together to help neighbors. And so I just want to show you a couple pictures. This is one of the fires from 2 weeks ago near my house. And this is working on one of the fire breaks that was established in 2007, but has had no maintenance. And now it's in a burn scar. So, this is the kind of work that we're partnering with Clerk on to move forward to, for paid work and hire contractors to do this work. But for now, it's a community effort. So if you go to the next slide, Jake, thanks. So this was a flyer that we sent out to everybody identifying the 2 different work days. This was just, again, one of the work sites, and this was to reestablish the fire break, but there was also a lot of storm damage cleanup and neighbors helping neighbors. Next slide. So the first day it snowed, but that doesn't stop people from coming out and working. So the first day on March 6th, we had 7 different work sites. We got grant funding to do this. We provided lunches for everybody that came. So we gave away 50 lunches the first day, and we also gave away emergency preparedness go bags. Next slide. This was just last Saturday, 4 work sites, 50 lunches given away. And you can see we had people from age 2 to very elderly out here helping each other. And this Broom Buster sign here, an award, is for going after the Scotch broom and Spanish broom, the invasive broom species that are highly flammable. And so this is a collaboration with a group from Canada called Broom Busters. And, so we're doing the same work they're doing in Canada. And if you do a lot of broom busting work, you get one of these signs in your yard as an award. Next slide. So there's the sign, and these are our sponsors. We got several $1,000s to buy lunches for everyone, to get the go bags. And we also had some money to hire contractors on excavators and skid steers to do the heavy working and to manage the large burns. So with the Lake County Fire Safe Council, Cauberry Council, South Lake Fire Council, and Calpine. Then the last slide. So if you would like to do a project like this in your area, start by talking to your neighbors, identify where the hazards are, and then we can help you plan a work day. Reach out to me. In any district, anywhere around the county, I can help you with the resources. May 1st is National Fire Preparedness Day. So that's a day that's been established throughout the country through Firewise communities where everybody works on reducing the fire hazard around their homes. But that's also that's when our burn ban usually goes into effect. So try and get your burning done before that. In Middletown, Supervisor Simon's going to be pushing this hard. There's going to be a big event, a big Broom Buster event on March 27th, where hopefully a couple hundred people are going to come out and work in the creeks to remove the hazardous brooms that have been invading the creeks. So if you can visit our new website for the South, it's firesafelake.org. That is our Lake County Fire Safe Council website. It has a ton of resources, and it was just launched about 6 months ago. So this, I would encourage all of you other board members and anybody listening to go to that website and push it out as a resource, because it's a tremendous resource. It's kind of got everything on one site. For preparedness and long-term planning and all kinds of resources. So that's my report on that. So now I'll do my calendar. So this evening, there is a CTA Zoom that I hope to attend. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., I have a high-level housing discussion with a developer that's considering a housing development for the Kelsville area. Then Humboldt County TOT analysis discussion. Then I have my conversation with the public health officer recruitment. I have 2 meetings at 3 o'clock, so I'm going to sort that out. But one of them is with Takara, and just a standing meeting that we've scheduled. And then I also have one with Angela DePaula and Scott DeLeon and Daniela and Marina to get up to date on the Watershed Protection District. Then at 4 o'clock, I have a meeting with Caltrans. They It's really interesting. There's a bridge that's being rebuilt in the Cobb area, and Caltrans did a presentation with the Cobb Area Council, and everybody in the community was very concerned that they would be redoing a bridge and taking our main highway down to one lane in the middle of fire season. So through these conversations that we've had at the community level, Caltrans is now kind of adjusting their strategy on when they would do these kind of improvements and trying not to do it during fire season when evacuations might have to happen. So that's been a really interesting organic discussion that's really making some changes in the organization itself. So then I have my radio check-in Wednesday evening. Thursday is our first Fire Safe Council in over a year, so that's very exciting. I have a cannabis concern discussion in the afternoon, and that evening I have my Cobb Area Council meeting. On Friday, I have the Workforce Alliance Governing Board meeting, and then Supervisor Sabatier and I are going to be splitting a volunteer shift at the vaccination clinic in Clear Lake. So I will be there from noon to about 4:30. On Monday, I have my meeting with Carol, and then Tuesday is the Board of Supervisors meeting. I know we're going to be moving into the red tier, so the chamber will be opening again, and I'm not sure if we're going to have 3 members there or 5 members there, or what the consensus is on that. I'm not vaccinated yet, so I don't know if any of you are or what your plans are, but I'm just wondering, how we'll be proceeding with that.
You done with your?
I'm done now.
Okay. So I'll respond to that quickly in the fact that without having a conversation here, because we've already had the conversation and this is just a presentation of our calendars, that we had talked about that it's a choice, that it's not mandatory. It's not a specific amount of people. We've had 1 person here before in the past, or 2 people in the past, sometimes 3. And I think just on the 23rd, if everything is rolling out, I don't know what's happened with Governor Newsom at noon. We're still having our meeting. So I don't know exactly what's been said or what's been changed, but hopefully if we go into the red tier, yes, our chamber will be open next week. Not forcing staff to be there. That was never the discussion that we had, but maybe we need to have that discussion again to figure out how we move forward in the following weeks to come. But at this point, it was just up to us. If we want to be there, then we're there. Obviously, I would suspect that one of us needs to be there. I know I will be there. And so that takes care of that. And also, we had said red tier opening for the in-person contact for our offices. That is being discussed with the hope that we can go back possibly to what we were doing prior to going to purple in late December and doing the same type of scenario that we were in when we were originally in the red tier. But again, that is being worked on and finalized. There is no specific plan at this point, other than hopefully on 3/22, we will see that change. And then I will discuss my past reports. Just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that right now, Lake Transit Authority, due to their CARES Act funding that they've received, is offering free bus rides. So if you need a ride to go to the vaccine clinic, if you need a ride to go grocery shopping, the bus is available for anyone, no matter what age group you're in, to provide you with that transportation. I do want to say a big thank you to Water Resources, very specifically to Deputy Director Deli Giannis for her Big Valley Basin presentations that she made. I listened to both of their presentations. The first time was multitasking, and the second time I really wanted to get a better level of understanding of what they're working on. A wealth of information, and her enthusiasm for, what was it again? Groundwater Week is unquestionable. So I appreciate that. Let me go to this week, what's happening. Hopefully, if we have a chance, we'll do agenda review later today. Tomorrow, I'll be at LAFCO. I have here that I have an AVA meeting, but I haven't received any emails, so maybe that's just some remnant from previous schedules. I'm looking at Supervisor Simon. We don't have an AVA meeting, right?
No, April.
Okay, so I'll double check to make sure that that's on my calendar. I have a marketing committee over at the City of Clear Lake, which I've been working with them on with the Rural Arts Initiative. I go to a lot of different communities where in the town of Sonoma, you see cows everywhere, like forms of cows that are designed in specific ways. You go to Napa County, they have roosters. When I went to go visit Wyoming and went to Yellowstone last year, they have buffaloes everywhere that are painted in different ways and designed in different ways. Well, we're the #1 bass fishing area. So we created a bass form out of the woods coming out of the Valley Fire. So we repurposed the Valley Fire trees that were cut down and crafted some forms of bass jumping out of the water, and then having artists design some special designs on those forms, and then we're going to put those all around in the City of Clear Lake. And my hope is that we can start seeing those all over the county as well, to recognize that this is something that we're known for in the area. They look beautiful. I couldn't be happier with what the Rural Arts Initiative has helped me obtain for the City of Clear Lake, and can't wait to see them up and running. So that's exciting. Also have a discussion with, as Supervisor Pyska mentioned, with our recruiter for our PHO. So having a discussion there. Then I will also have a discussion with some of our department heads, with our CAO on some matters. Thursday, one of my kids starts school again. That's very exciting for me. And then I'll have a CSAC call later on that day to get an update on what's going on with COVID-19 at the state level, and then a Clear Lake City Council meeting later on. And on Friday, as Supervisor Pyska mentioned, I'll be volunteering over at the vaccine site, and then having a ad hoc committee. We're still calling it the CARES Act ad hoc committee, but the American Rescue Plan is not the CARES Act. It's basically similar, to discuss how those funds will be allocated as we receive them. Coming back on Monday, meeting with our CAO to discuss our agenda, and continuing to plan our board workshop that we approved from 4/16, and again on a CSAC call later on that evening, and back here again on Tuesday for another session. And that is all on my calendar. And that is all for our agenda today, for our open agenda. We will be taking a lunch and coming back at 1:30. At 1:30, we will be taking on our closed session. So I will go ahead and read out our closed session right now before convening for lunch. That way we can just commence right away into our closed session. 8.1 is conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to government code, section 54956.9D1, Center for Biological Diversity versus County of Lake. 8.2, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to government code, section 54956.9D1, California Native Plant Society versus County of Lake. 8.3, employee disciplinary appeal, government code, section 54957, appeal number 2021-01. 8.4, conference with legal counsel, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to government code section 54956.9 D2E3, claim of Earthways Inc. 8.5, conference with legal counsel, a significant exposure to litigation, existent litigation pursuant to government code section 54956.9 D1, Sabaloni versus County of Lake. And with that, we will adjourn to lunch and re-adjourn only in closed session. Thank you everybody for joining us in our meeting today, and we will see you next week.